All right, man. I got Christian Allen, Tailor Made. What's up, brother?
Oh, not much. This is a long time coming.
I know, right? You've been on the podcast. It's just we've never actually done one together.
Yeah, no, it's your podcast is great, man. It's I contribute the Pestgeek Podcast and you really to making me more curious, I guess, and furthering my education myself on pest control. So I appreciate
That
you.
that's really the goal. I'm not pretending to be the guru. I'm more of a goat than a guru.
Yeah.
Uh, so I just tend to be, pointing people to ask more questions than they are.
Right.
I was just having a conversation about asking questions. Sometimes we ask the wrong questions and we don't get the right answers, and then we ask the right question of the wrong people and we still get the wrong answer. So I
Yeah.
guess it's just knowing which one to do. But yeah, you talked to me about the other day about the issue of burnout.
Yeah.
And I've gone through burnout. I've gone through different types of burnout in my life. I'm 53, so I'm not, a spring chicken. So there's things that I've gone through that most 20 something and 30 something year olds haven't gone through yet, when it comes to issues of burnout. And we were discussing that, and you told me about that you were kind of feeling a little bit burned out, but you're doing a million and one things like I am.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're trying to do too much and you're doing too much for sometimes for the wrong reasons. And a lot of that has to do to evaluate, you know, why are we doing what we're doing? What's the end game? Um, believe it or not, most people don't start with the end game in mind. I mean, why are we building a business? Is it to keep it, sell it, grow it? What do we want to end at the end of this? What do we want to accomplish? And that's a major question. But tell me, what have you been experiencing? What's been going on with you?
Yeah, so it's funny, that you said that most people don't start with the end in mind. I've started with the end in mind. So like
Okay.
I'm already where I'm at retired in my mind. That's kind of where I want to be at. And that might be some of my issues is I wanted to get there sooner than what is actually, where we actually are. But the end for me is selling at some point.
Hmm.
Either, kids if we ever have kids, or a friend, or I don't care who, or working or Terminix, because it's my retirement. So now that I'm on my own, I'm pretty much stopped paying into Social Security, but we all know Social Security may not be there by the time I get to retirement. It should be, but it may not be. And it's never, a very substantial enough to live
Right.
on. And, I haven't, foolishly or not planning ahead, haven't really paid into a 401, don't really have much money for savings. And I think a lot of that probably just has to do with, I guess, my generation. We live for the now per se. So,
Right.
and don't really live for the future. Even though it's something, I think about it. It's kind of like going on a diet and eating well. I think
Hmm.
about I should be eating better as I'm munching down on a greasy burger and French fries and a shake. So it's kind of the same way with finances. Is I know I should be saving a little bit more than I am, but something comes along and I spend my money.
Right.
Um, but I guess what I'm going through is like I was talking to you. I was like, I don't want to say burnout because a lot of people throw that around,
Yeah.
and it is like a medical term or whatever. So I don't, haven't been diagnosed with burnout, haven't really seen anybody about it, but I feel tired. I'm tired, I guess, worn
Hmm.
out. Um, I know I'm still young, so I'm still grinding, especially with the company. We're still in the grinding
Hmm.
phase. But I know even like 4 or 5 years ago, there was a time when 80 hours, while 80 hours was a lot of work, um,
Hmm.
it it didn't seem that bad. Like I could do 80 hours, and I was tired, but not like, man,
Right.
what the hell am I doing type thing.
Right.
Uh, and so some of it I might contribute it to, 4 or 5 years ago, I was working for somebody else. So there wasn't the stress of Are we making money? Am I going to make payroll this week? How is the business going to survive? Or our schedule's not filled. I wonder if calls are going to come in, type that sort of thing. So I know there's differences in how I'm working now versus when I was working before. Like before, I was just given work, schedule my stuff, go and do the work, and then go home per se. Versus now it's like it never ends. And so, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, as mentioned, I am trying to do a million things. So recently I'm now trying to find who's not hows on doing things. So we sat down with my two people and like, look, you guys are gonna start doing more work. And figuring out how to get all this stuff done. So we're going through right now, and I'm delegating stuff that can be done by somebody else. And while it might not be to per se Christian Allen standard, if it's done, it's good. And as long as they think it's good, I think it's good. Like then we're gonna be fine with it. But there's like I get home and I'm like, man, I got like 5 phone calls to return. And I'm like, man, I'm not going to return the phone calls. I'll let Sarah do it tomorrow. And that sort of thing. Like before, when I started, like it was like I get home, we work another 3 hours, returning phone calls, scheduling stuff, and working on the website and marketing and stuff. Now, like my Facebook presence has, people make fun of me. I'm still on Facebook a lot, but I don't post a lot for the business like I'd like to. And there's still a lot of things that I'd like to get out there, videos made, pictures posted that I don't, just because I'm tired. I don't want to do it. So yeah, there's a lot of things that get neglected. I got a pile of paperwork and stuff that needs to be filed from bills and stuff that just needs to be filed for tax purposes and stuff that is just piling up on the dining room table. And definitely need to track inventory a little bit better than we are and organizing things. So it's just a lot of stuff that on the back end of the business that has to get done that I'm letting be neglected just because by the time I get done with everything, I'm tired and I don't like mentally, maybe physically I can still do it, but mentally I'm like drained. So
let me ask you this. We said starting with the end in mind.
yeah.
Have you set a number that you want to get to, that you say, if I can get to this number, I can comfortably retire? How old are you now?
30, 31, gonna be 32
Okay.
in months.
31. So if you technically want to retire at a specific time and say, have a number.
Yeah.
Because you got the end in mind, but
yeah.
And there's it's a double-edged sword, because if you set a goal and then you reach it, then what? Do I quit or do I keep going?
Yeah, so I haven't really set a number per se. Like, again, I should have a budget. I don't have a budget. We kind of wing it. So I've set my 5-year goals. So I do have that. And
what is it? What's your 5-year goal?
Let me see. I can get it really quick.
Well, tell me off the top of your head. You don't have to be specific. I mean, it's generalized. I mean, you've got a concept.
Okay, so the biggest 5-year goal for me was to be able to hit 1 million in at least 5 years, to be out of the field, not like completely, but like not running a full route in 5 years. And like having a company that's like self-sufficient almost, and that has enough pieces in place to where if I want to be out for a week because I want to go to Pest World in Hawaii, that I'm just going to go to Pest World in Hawaii and not have to worry about it.
Right.
Because part of the real goal for me is, I never really wanted to own a company. So, my best friend told me about 3 or 4 years ago that I should start my own company, that I know enough pest control wise, that I'm working my ass to death for somebody else that's not going to care about me, like I think he's going to care about me. And I was like, no, I'm going to keep busting my ass for this guy. And eventually he's going to retire. And we've talked back and forth before, and I'm just going to buy him. And I'm like, I'm here growing his company, probably hurting me because it's going to be a better valuation for him. But what I thought was, I am saving myself the startup phase that I'm not going to have to go through. I'll buy into a business that's already running with 15 plus years behind it, that I can just take over and just maintain and continue to grow. And grow a little bit more than what he was, because he really didn't want to grow. So I knew that. But I wanted to grow some to where it was kind of already pieces in place to where when I take over, I'm not 55, or I think he's 70 and still running a route, because 68 when retired, still running at least a half a route, pulling
Right.
25 or 100,000 a year just on him. So I had no desire to do that. If people want to run till they're 68, 70, more power to them. I don't have it in me to do that.
I don't think I'd want to run a route. Running a business and running a route are two different things. I had to come to terms with that a long time ago. And we'll talk for obvious reasons, we haven't grown to where I want to be, because my goal is, I want to have a retirement. I want to be able to sell this and do the next phase of my life, my career, which is what I've been building up for the last 10 years on the podcast, is a platform for myself to do something else when I do retire from this. But I already have my platform built, so I'm looking out for that. The idea that you got a person that doesn't want to grow. I mean, how did that work out? I mean, you obviously
it didn't really work out. So that's why I left. It became too much difference of his opinions between what I was looking to do and what he was looking to do. And then it ended up being one of the because of the changes. So at first he was on board because we were making more money. I think we're probably a little bit more profitable because I was condensing things. So before it was everybody makes their own schedule, and everybody runs their route. But it really wasn't defined on like the east part of Louisville, I do, west part of Louisville, somebody else does. It wasn't broken up. Going all over the place, crisscrossing. And to me, I didn't know how we were making money driving all over God's green creation on a pest control. So I condensed it. I made it to where I was doing all the scheduling. I made the phone calls. We had the other 3 people running a route exclusively, and then I was running a half a route, full route in between, taking all the phone calls and doing everything. So we condensed it all. But one of his people that were there longer than me didn't like it, so he started like pushing back.
Of course.
And that's when, because I was expecting him to do more. That's ended up what it came down to. Before, Charlie was okay with doing like 5 to 8 jobs a day. When I took over, I was like, man, we need to do like 10 at least in an 8-hour day. If we can condense it, there's no reason why we can't do at least 10 a day in 8 hours. Long story short, I left, and like I tell people, I have nothing but respect for Charlie. And now that I've owned my business now 2 years, I probably have more respect for him, because there's a lot of things like I hated, like writing down the production for the day, meeting every day, little things like that I'm like, man, this is tedious, this is stupid. Now I'm like, well, shit, we should have done that to start with. And so now I have 2 employees. We're implementing more of that stuff. And so I see why he was doing some of the things he was doing, but I was able to learn on what I still think that was shortcomings for him that I changed, and we're doing a little bit for us.
So you're a reluctant, what everybody's called a reluctant entrepreneur. I mean, I was more of a budding entrepreneur because this is all I ever wanted to do. I never wanted to work for anybody since I was 14. I had my own, I was basically self-employed. I would do odd jobs for everybody, 15, 16, 17, 18. I would do that, but you're in the typical position that probably 80 to 90% of all entrepreneurs are in, is that, and you found out, the good thing about you is you found out sooner than later, because most people, start up a business, start up in their mid 30s. But a lot, believe it, are in their 40s, late 40s, and some in their 50s, because they all of a sudden they get fired and they can't make what they used to make. Nobody
Well,
will hire them for that amount.
I mean, that's where I was.
Yeah.
So, 2 years ago, before I started Tailor Made, I was so unhappy there for a lot of different reasons. And, the wife and I talked, and I knew I was going to have to take a pay cut to go anywhere. And as long as it wasn't a significant pay cut, I was going to be okay with it. But I ended up interviewing with two other pest control companies. One was a local large company. Well, both of them were large companies here. Well, actually, I interviewed 3 times. One was for a technician job, but they really were looking for lawn and ornamental. And all of my background's in structural pest. They did pest control, but he called it pest control light, which ended up just being like exterior pest control only. And I'm like, that's not going to be a good fit for me because I just know too much, and I'm not going to be happy just doing ants and spiders and mosquitoes. Like, there's enough there to keep people happy, but
If you're a low level tech, a maintenance tech,
yeah,
and
I'm
that's all
more
you want to do, that's excellent.
yeah, but I'm more
Yeah.
than a maintenance tech, and I knew that. So then there is another company that just had a technician position, and I was able to talk them up to like $18 an hour because they were going to start me up at 15. And I was like, there's no way I can start at 15. I'm like, so I told him, like, I think I was at 22 or $23 an hour with my previous employer. And I'm like, look, I get that we're not going to get anywhere close to the 22 or $23 an hour, but we got to get somewhere close. There's a difference between taking a pay cut and like killing myself.
Starting at the bottom completely as a new tech.
And I know I'm going to have to come in and prove myself. I'm like, but I get that I'm going to come in to prove myself, but I have 8 years experience. At the time, I still had my branch manager's license. I'm like, I'm not just a certified tech. I also got my branch manager's license, which I get it. I don't have managerial experience per se, and I'm okay with knowing that, but I did take the extra step and I took the extra test. So I have more credentials than most of the other people. And I've done termites and wildlife and all this other stuff that most people don't have.
Right.
So, they really wanted me. They talked to me. They were trying to make it work, but $18 an hour, that wasn't going to work. Right. And then there was another company that locally that got bought out by Rollins. But they're starting out a new branch here. And they had assistant manager position open. And I think that was only going to pay like $35,000 or $40,000 a year salary plus bonuses and stuff. But I was willing to do that because I've never seen a big company operate. So I was like, if I could come in, see the structural, like how an operation is ran, I think that could only help me. And there's potentially upward mobility working with a company that's working with Rollins, because their way, they're selling it as, yeah, you work for us, but you work for Rollins. So if something comes up in like Orkin or another Rollins subsidy, you could go and take that position and further yourself in career-wise. So I was interested in that. They ended up hiring in-house and then was only going to offer me a technician position, which with the potential to move up once something comes open. But they wanted to start me out at $15 an hour because they needed to train me for 2 weeks. And I was like, I get it. I got to see how you guys do things. I'm like, but then they're going to do production pay and they want to start me at like 19%. And then it tops out at 22%. And I was like, look, I negotiate with them. I'm like, look, I can start out at 19%. I'm like, but in 3 months, I need to do I want to have an evaluation because I feel like in 3 months, I can show myself that I deserve 22% because they said after 5 years, that's when you get to raise to 22%. I'm like, been in the industry for 8 years. So I'm past 5 years. But the best they're going to offer me was 21%. And I almost took it. But then I was like, do I really want to go work for somebody else and be in the same place where I'm not happy? So I ended up starting.
And I'll tell you about, you just mentioned like not happy like 3 times. So my burnout and there's job burnout. Okay. There's different types. We're talking mostly about clinical stuff, which I've been through, but there is job burnout where you're just basically just unhappy.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are dissatisfied. They're always looking for, and it's typical with the generation,
Yeah.
FOMO. And, if somebody offers me more money, I'm jumping ship. I get it. As a salesperson, I did the same thing. There's nothing wrong with that. It's when I got to the point to help you out and the audience is where I was so unhappy with what I was doing that I literally felt sick.
Yeah.
I felt like I would wake up in the morning like if I had the flu.
Yeah.
And I was just like mentally just checked out already. I wasn't there. And that's when I realized I would get up in the morning sometimes as I don't feel like going to work. For me, as a classified workaholic since I was like 19, people would say you're a workaholic. I mean, I work in a store. I was 19, 20 years old, and I'd be putting in 60 hours. So when I didn't want to get up anymore to go do this, there were signs that were telling me you're done.
Yeah.
And that's what and people need to recognize that a lot of the generation is, hey, if you got to pay the bills, you got kids, you got a mortgage, you got golden handcuffs, you got to sit there and take it, because if there's nothing better in the market, not everybody has the opportunity to be in a major market where there's options.
Yeah.
Some people have, like, there's only 2 pest control companies in the entire, 3, 4, 5 counties, because you're out so rural, you don't have a choice. You got to stay there and you got to do it. And I've talked to several people like that. So the job burnout where you're like, hey, I'm not getting anywhere. Nobody wants to pay me what I feel I'm worth. And that's always like, what's the market worth? It's whatever. Understand that once you get, this is what I've been talking about for the last 10 years, that once you get so far into your career, if you make it past the 1 to 3 years, you're at 1 to 3 years, you're pretty much easily replaceable.
Yeah.
You get to 6 to 7 years, you're not easily replaceable if they need you. But the reality is, how many companies really need an 8-year tech?
They really don't need it because most of the job, most of pest control can be done by a first year person.
Yeah.
Because it's easy, maintenance stuff.
Yeah. Like right now, I just hired a guy. How much do I need a 40-hour tech, which is my minimum training? Anything more than that, when you're the average pest control company of less than 5 people, which is the average pest control company, is less than 5 people, mostly 3. I can't sit there in a boardroom, give you 40 hours of classroom training, then say you're going to ride in for 2 weeks with a senior technician, learn everything he knows, and then let you loose. And then after 2 weeks of 3 weeks of all that, you're like, I still don't know anything because I haven't done anything. Yeah. I'd rather say, what do I need you to do in the next 40 hours? And what can I have you do, which is maintenance work only? Yeah. Train you for that, and then set you loose and have you produce for me. And then when those situations arise that I need you, I'll be there for you and I'll ride with you. And we'll, how often are you going to do a bed bug job? We do maybe 1 bed bug job a quarter. Yeah. I'm not going to spend 80 hours training a guy on bed bug biology when he's never going to do one. I'm not going to train him on termite because I don't want him to be a termite tech. I'm not going to train him on lawns because I don't want him to do lawns. Yeah. I need him to do maintenance work. As I see he can grow, if he can be more than a maintenance tech, then he's a tech 2 and a tech 3. And then, but the training is ongoing. But what do I need you to do in 40 hours? Yeah. And what I've learned is, yeah, and that's where what I do is I look and say, what can I, and then you talked about delegating, and you got to learn to delegate tasks and not roles, because you ain't big enough to delegate a whole role. It's like, I need an admin that, I mean, people say like the classic question, right? I need to hire an admin because I have too much work that I can no longer do. But I don't have enough for her to do everything I do, because what you want is somebody to do billing, somebody to do scheduling, somebody to answer those phones, sell the customer, get the appointments, and you want them to do 15 things. You wanting every time you want a purple unicorn like you're not going to find it.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things that I realized when I was ready to hire, was I knew I wasn't going to find me. Like I knew, I know there's people like me, obviously, I mean, I'm not like a unicorn. I get that. Like, I'm not special, but people like me and you probably have already started their business. Um, and that's just reality. And if they haven't yet, they're going to at some point, which is fine.
Right.
I don't, one of my people want to start their own companies, which my tech is like in the process of trying to start her own company with her husband. Like, I'm fine with it. Go
Mhm.
start your own company. I'm willing to tell you whatever I know,
Right.
good or bad, and you go do your own thing. But I know for the majority, like 80 to 90% of the population, they're happy with just an 8 to 5, 8 to 4 job.
Right.
They want to go to work, they want to do their job, and then go home and not think about it.
Hmm.
And so I knew that going into it, and I think I embraced that little too much. So when I first started with Sarah, she's my like my admin per se. Like, I started her out a little bit, and she had no experience in pest control, no experience in office. So like, we're completely training her from the ground up.
What
And it
did
was
she do?
like,
What did she do before, out of curiosity?
she was at Taco Bell for years, and then a couple warehouses. So just
Okay.
like a laborer. Um, and with kids, she kind of needed a flexible job to where she could do doctor's appointments and stuff like that. And she had some health concerns, so it's just a flexible job where everything we do is remote, pretty much. I mean, we do field routes, and our phone system is VoIP. So everything, you don't have to be at the office. Now, I prefer to be at the office. We do have an office. I feel like she gets more stuff done when she's at the office, but I allow her the flexibility if she has a doctor's appointment, work from home, go to your doctor's appointment, come back, finish working or whatever, or kid's sick, stay at home, that sort of thing, and get your stuff done. But she had to. It was on the job training. Really, it was like, so I hired her, sat with her for one day, and then I pretty much said good luck. And for better or for worse, her training has been real life training. All of our calls are recorded with Voice for Pest, so I'm able to listen to calls and be like, that wasn't very good. Let's do this instead. And we've built, some processes and scripts as we went along, because I've
Got it.
never. That's the other thing too, is I never had experience managing a call person, or I never had customer service training, professionally. Like, I just learned. I was 21 when I was hired, and all of those people or the soft skills I learned doing pest control. So,
Okay.
I did start out like, oh, hi, I think I'm here to kill some bugs for you, to now I know what I'm talking about and I'm comfortable talking to you. So it was, getting her to go through the phase of, I wrote down pretty much all of our processes on how I kill things and do things, and gave her a price sheet on how to sell. And if she had any questions outside of the normal stuff, call me. So we spent a lot of time on the phone.
Right.
Um, and she's gotten better. There's still a
Yeah.
lot of things that she forgets here and there. And over time, I've added more and more stuff on her. Now she's doing a lot. Probably not as much as she would working for a bigger company, but that's where we're adding more tasks onto her versus a job description. Like,
Yeah.
her job description is whatever the hell I give her. That pretty much, that's, like, you're like my office manager, but she's managing me, she's managing my tech, she's managing all the phone calls and stuff coming in.
Right.
So I mean,
How many
it's
hours a week does she work for you?
40,
40.
sometimes.
Okay.
Just depends on, summertime she's probably working like 45-ish, just
Yeah.
because there's a lot of stuff coming in. And the good thing is she's, so I know her, well, I kind of knew her outside of work. She's my best friend's baby mama, pretty much. So
Okay.
she's been, there's times where at like 9 o'clock I call her, I'm like, hey, can you talk for a minute? So then we'll go over some things. So she's been pretty flexible. So, there's been a lot of learning curves, and there's been a lot of times where I'm frustrated and we hash it out and go at it. But she's been really good. She's loyal. She's trying to do her best,
Yeah.
and she's available whenever kind of I need her. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of like, what do you quantify as valuable to you. And to me, it's like I can teach you bugs, I can teach you customer service, I can deal with the learning curves, because there's a lot of learning curves I'm learning. I
Right.
don't know everything. But the loyalty and the availability
Right.
is something I can't replace.
Right.
And so,
Yeah. I mean, if you got a person that, you hear it all the time. If you follow the groups, you would lose your mind.
oh yeah,
Because everybody's like, well, you need to have, you know, protocols, and then you have, scripts, and then you have KPIs to track it. And like, understand that if you don't know what you don't know.
yeah,
So even if you told me I need KPIs, what am I tracking? Even
yeah.
if you told me I need scripts, what's going to be on that script?
And that's the biggest thing with the
Yeah.
industry. In the groups, there's a lot of people like, oh yeah, we're here to help. So then you ask, hey, I need help building a script, because I've never built a script before.
Right.
And then people are like, well, you know how to build a script. It's whatever you do, whatever how you talk to a customer. Well, how do I know how I talk to a customer is right? Or is that the most like effective way of selling it?
Right.
Or it's like you need to be selling 70 to 80% of the sales of the call leads coming in.
Yeah.
Well, how does that look like?
Yeah.
So I know like Seth with Pest Daily, he's got a lot of he focuses a lot on the back end, the office work, sales work, which is
Right.
really
Right.
helped us. I have her watching the Pest Daily stuff. I've watched the Pest Daily stuff. We've kind of molded our own into it. And then I've worked with Pete Chopin, and
Right.
he's helped me, what do I need to track? Because people are like, you need to track stats. Well, I never track stats. Like, what am I supposed to track? But now, I tell people I do baby KPIs. So I know like Chopin before he sold, they were tracking everything. And I'm
Of
sure they're
course.
still tracking everything.
Yeah. By the time you get to that size,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, they're the most KPI number centric company out there. So I know there's a lot of things that they're tracking up to the minute. We're not tracking up to the minute. We're like last week, previous day type stuff we're tracking. But I know what we're making per hour, per route, per mile. Like I'm tracking more than what generally a smaller company tracks, just because it really helps. So at first, when Pete told me I had to track stuff, I'm like, I don't have time for this, Pete. He's like, yeah, you do. And so then I reluctantly started doing it, but for the magazine, since he was writing an article about me. And then once I started doing it, I started enjoying it.
Mhm.
And so now it's become like, oh man, what do my numbers say? And when I make a business decision, it's like, this is what I feel, but let me go and look at what the numbers actually say. And Pete's shown me
Right.
that what I feel isn't what the numbers say a lot of
Right.
times. Sometimes it is. And so as I'm growing as a company and more people are reaching out to me about, hey, I see you're starting your company. How did you do it? What are you doing to get to where you are now? I hear Pete, I hear Seth in me now, because I'm like, what does your
Right.
number say? What are you tracking? Are you tracking this? Are you tracking that? This is how I tracked it. This is maybe not be the way it's supposed to be tracked, but this is how I started.
Right.
And this is a good starting point to get you started, so and this is why you should track these numbers. And that's what's missing. It's like when people are giving advice, it's more of, you need to track KPIs, you need to do this,
Right.
you need to do that. How do
Yeah.
you do that? Because what I think is missing, or what's not understood, or what people forget after they start their business, is like 80 to 90% of people that start the business are techs that's never been a
Yeah.
manager, that's
Yeah.
never owned a company before,
Right.
that run a route and think just because you were producing $150,000, $200,000 for another company, you can go do that for yourself easily.
Yeah.
But
You
you
can.
don't see the back end. You don't see the phone calls. You don't see what they did for marketing. You don't see why did you have to make $200,000 to make your measly $40,000
Right.
salary. You
Yeah.
don't see that. You think you're making $40,000 and you're doing 200,000 in production. You're like, man, I should be making more money. Well, why do you think you should be making more money?
Yeah.
Did
There's
you see
5
what
people that have,
the
it's a
budget
hundred.
was?
Yeah. I mean, most people don't understand. You need between 99,000 and 150,000 for every employee you want to do
Mm-hmm.
a task. So, you need to, how much are you running right now? a year?
Uh, well, we're on track to do about 280, 300,000 this
Okay.
year. I
So
think we're at two. I think we're at 240 right now.
yeah, so you've got enough really for less than 2.5 employees.
Yeah, I've hired early, so that's the thing. So with the help from with Seth and Pete, they could working with them. It's been good and bad. It's been great because I've been able to have people that's been there and done that and bounce ideas off them, and they've been
Right.
helpful in giving me guidance on what I'm supposed to do. It's also been bad because I don't know if it's really bad, but they're like, you shouldn't have hired anybody yet. They're like two, you should be doing 250,000 consistently before you hire your first person. And Pete and I broke it down last week, and it's not crazy. Pete's saying you do $1,000, um, 5 day, 6 days a week, or like 1,200 in 5 days. He's like, it's not, you should be doing around 5 to 6,000 a week. Answer all your phone calls, and how he was doing it is kind of how I was doing it at the beginning. But for me, it just gets overwhelming. And I'm kind of at the place, even though I'm young, like, so I've done the 80, 100 hour weeks, and I can still do it. But do I really want to do it now? And it might just be my
Right.
generation. I tell people, my
Yeah.
generation, we want the money, we want the fun, but
Right.
we don't want to work our asses to the ground anymore. And I'm a workaholic. I've always been somebody that worked. I worked when I was been 16, and I don't have a social life outside of work. I spend time with the wife, and we just stay at home pretty much. We don't do a lot. We don't have a lot
Right.
of friends. We don't do social stuff. But I work. When I go on vacation, it's going to a conference. That's fun for me,
Right.
but it's not for everybody. But with that being said, is I'm at the point where I could do 250,000 probably by myself, and I'm psyching myself out mentally on that. But do I want to do 250,000 by myself?
Okay.
Again, it goes back to I knew that I could start my own business. It wasn't a matter of could I do it. It's a matter, did I want to do it? I didn't want to do it. That's why I was content working for somebody else until I felt like I was pushed out and I had no other options to go. And so again, it's kind of like when I hired Sarah. I hired Sarah last year in August, and we weren't at 100,000 yet. We finished last year 131,000 last year. So I hired her completely early. But in August, I was a week or two booked out just because of all the stuff that was coming in, and we were doing wildlife. So there's a lot of big jobs I had to take care of. And I felt overwhelmed with all the phone calls that were coming in. And I was trying to take them in between jobs as they came in, but a lot of times they got pushed to at night. So I'd work in 10, 12 hours, come home, call people 8 or 9 o'clock at night, call them back. I was
Mm-hmm.
doing that every day. I'm like, I don't want to do that every day. So
Yeah.
that's why I brought in Sarah. And then
Let me pause you there for a
yeah,
second, because you're describing is typical. What
yeah,
we fail to understand, or what some people in the consulting area fail to understand, is that not everybody has their DNA,
yeah,
and DNA matters,
yeah,
and grooming matters, and experience matters, and support at home matters, and everything that makes you right now matters
yeah,
in that equation. And you mentioned that you're overwhelmed. I mean, you're probably typical, probably ADD.
yeah, probably. I am.
Okay, so when we have situations like where I have ADHD, um, and we're technical people,
Yeah,
which I was a technical person. I
yeah,
just happened to got into sales early on in my life, but I
yeah.
was a technical person. I still am. I'm kind of like, I'm stuck between these two worlds of being
I'm the
technical,
same way.
and
I'm
then
not as
and,
much
and
a
then
salesperson as you are, I think. I'm more technical, but I have a limit on how technical I can be. I've learned.
right.
There's other people I've met that are more technical than me, and I'm fine. I don't
And
need
and you'll always find that. You'll always find
it.
somebody who's more technical than you, somebody who's less technical, somebody who's more sales ability. In other words, when we evaluate the spectrums of things, is like, how good are you at all these things? You really are not.
Yeah.
And what a lot of these guys are is they're either business people,
Yeah.
but they don't worry about the technical.
Yeah.
They're salespeople, but they're not really good at business. Or if
Yeah.
they're really good at business, they're not. I mean, in other words,
Yeah.
everybody's.
One or the other.
If you measure all of the requirements to
Yeah.
get somebody that has all of them is a purple unicorn. You never find it either. They just happen to play their strong card.
Yeah.
And
that's where I'm at. Like,
yeah.
Again, so you were asking about I can't the 5 Working Geniuses. I think that's the book you got the test from, and I want to take the test. I love that book. The first half of it was boring, but once it got down to the nitty gritty, it was really interesting. I need to go back and listen to it again. But yeah, I'm definitely ADHD, ADD, whatever you want to call, whatever alphabet you want to say. I am for sure.
Yeah.
It drives
and what we need is in that environment where people fail, even people who are not ADHDers, that don't understand is that are very logical. What you need is to have a structure. Like, you need to have a structure. The problem with our structures is that if we're doing tech work in the field and we got 15 to do and we're up against the clock to be back by a certain time, every phone call interrupts us to where we have to we can't do the technical work and focus on the client, take that phone call. And I know the people that do it and they're doing it into their 50s, and basically they're talking to the client saying, okay, but what I do to the client, if I got to take the call, I says, look, here's what I'm doing right now. In order for me to get you a quote, here's what I need from you.
Yeah.
Send me this information. I've got scripts on my phone. Very simple. I just text them back. It doesn't work for a lot of people because people are like, no, people around here are never going to put up with that. People around in Miami, they don't have time to talk to you. As a matter of fact, they don't even want to talk to you.
Yeah.
They just want you to give them the price, give them the information. So what I do is I have a preliminary script that takes me about 6 minutes to get through.
Yeah.
On the phone. And then I can take that call, evaluate it, decide if they're a customer or not, and say, okay, here's what I need from you to get you the quote.
Yeah.
Text me that information. I'll get you the quote. It's going to be a couple of hours. I'm in the field because I've had to go in the field recently, which is another issue you're going to face.
Yeah.
One of those people are going to quit on you.
Oh yeah.
33% of your staff, if you got 3 staff, 33% of your staff, you're going to have to take back on at any given time until you get all those filled.
I already know. I mean, like, as I mentioned before, my tech, her husband's in pest control. He quit his job and he's in the process of starting his own company.
Right.
So, I get it. We've talked and we've had pretty frank conversations.
Right.
And, for me, I know I'm probably going to have to replace her in a year. She's like, oh, no, I'm not going anywhere for like 2 or 3 years. But for me, I already know I have a ticking time clock.
Yeah.
And so I'm already kind of looking at what do I need to do to replace her. And so, I know she's probably going to stick with me at least through wintertime. So I know it's probably not super immediate.
Right.
But I am prepared to have to replace her. And the other thing too is, I know there's like a push for women in the workplace, and I'm totally, behind it. Right. Both employees are women, and both of them are moms. But what I don't think people explain or tell you when you're hiring women is, one, they are very good. They're detail oriented. They're organized. They keep you organized. But one of the things you have to deal with is they're moms first. And, I'm always say family first. And when it comes down to husband or wife or mom or dad taking off, 99% of the time, it's probably going to be mom if she can.
Right.
And I'm for that.
Right.
And because of that, I do, they work. I love them to death. But they probably call out more than most of your, like, if you had a man working, like if I had a guy working as a tech or a guy in the office, they probably take off more than what a guy would, just because that's,
It's the
Well,
DNA.
as much as we try to like desexualize like tasks or stuff in a family, at the end of the day, it comes down to women are like more motherly, more parental. They're going to
Right.
take care of the kid more, and that's fine. I want them to, so I'm not complaining that they should, but I feel like because of the people I've hired, and I've kind of done it on purpose, kind of on accident. Um, but I've had to, there's been times where Monday comes around and Carrie's out, and I'm like, okay, well, fuck, how are we going to get through this thing? So we have to, I figure it out. We get through it. Sarah calls out. Well, shit, who's going to answer my phone calls? Okay, now we got to figure this out. And it's something that's kind of also, I think it's helping prepare me for having more employees, just because
Yeah.
if I can figure out how to replace somebody now when I really am counting on them to work, then I can do it when we're 10 people deep.
Yeah. Well, you think, but
We'll see.
when you understand complexity,
Yeah.
um, in other words, you went from, let's say you go from 2 to 3 employees.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you just added 33%,
Yeah.
but you technically added about 400% in complexity.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah,
so,
I can definitely see that. My buddy, the poop scoop guy,
yeah,
he's got 10 employees. And that's the other benefit I will say. So, I bitch or complain a lot, and I get it. Um, maybe more than what people like. And it might be the generation. I don't know. I'm young, and that's what millennials do. We just bitch. But I will say I'm very blessed and fortunate, because I've been able to see my buddy, who's encouraged me to start my own company, go from nothing in an industry that nobody knows about, poop scooping, to grow it to, I think he'll be shy of 1 million this year, but next year he should do 1 million. I think he's going to be at 800, 900,000 this year with 10 employees in 7 years. So I've been able to see somebody grow from the ground up, and I've kind of emulated that.
right.
And I know not everybody has that. So not everybody has the business experience, and not everybody has a friend that's done it before, that be like, okay, well, this is what's worked and this is what hasn't worked, and learn from my mistakes.
Yeah,
So
no, I think you're surrounded by, really good people. And what I tell people is, in consulting and in building your consulting mentors, that you do need to surround yourself by many of them that actually have experience.
yeah,
Because one thing is to surround yourself by people that are cheering you on but can't tell you, or you
yeah,
can't see how they're done. It's wonderful, but you've got people around you that are helping you. But the issue of burnout, what I would say to that is, what I used to do in the past, okay, is I work 60, 70, 80-hour weeks my whole life.
yeah,
Um, what I would have to do is periodically, um, when I was younger, is make time on the calendar to take time off. And my time off literally was this: rent a hotel nearby. I didn't want to drive 18 hours. I don't want a vacation where I have to travel and be exhausted by the time I get back. It's like 2 hours. My favorite place to go in the world to get away is Naples. Naples is a sleepy town full of old money that everybody opens the door for you. Everybody walks on the sidewalk, says good morning and hi. There's no traffic. And rent a hotel, eat, sleep, and go rest by the pool for 4 days. And I would do that about every 3 months.
yeah,
This is also before hotels were costing $400 a night.
yeah,
But for like $500-600 back then, even up to $1,000 every 3 months that I would put away, I would take that time off to do nothing but eat, sleep, and
yeah,
rest. In other words, rest, recuperate, relax. I didn't take a phone. I didn't answer anybody. It was 4 days. I left on a Friday afternoon after work. It was
yeah.
Saturday, Sunday, and I would head back on Monday in the
Mm.
afternoon. After I've had breakfast, I checked out of the hotel. It would be drive around Naples, go have brunch, and about 2 o'clock I'd be driving back because it's only a 2 hour drive.
Yeah.
And that would be how I would recuperate.
I
And
probably need something like that.
you need to make plan for it, because what'll happen is, look, you can only burn you can only burn the candle at both ends long enough before you run out of wick and wax.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. It's inevitable.
I'm learning that the hard way.
Yeah. So what you got to do is you got to make a priority, like date night.
Yeah.
For your wife. No phone. When I go out, I have 2 phones. I'll carry out in case of emergency. My kid's mom and can get a hold of me.
Yeah.
But I try not to, because then I'm constantly distracted by it.
Yeah. So what I do is I have one phone, but I have an Apple Watch, and my wife hates it. I think she understands now. But what I do is I leave the phone at home. If you absolutely need me, you have my cell phone. Call me. I can get it on the Apple Watch.
Right.
Outside of that, yeah, I can still get the notifications.
And even then,
I can't do Facebook. I can't do social media because
I don't have it on my other phone. I don't have any social media on my other phone. It's just the phone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
I can't even answer business phones.
Yeah.
Like with the app with Voice for Pest, I can't answer it on the watch. So literally, it's if you know who I am. Like, yeah, I can get emails and stuff, and I could potentially, my wife has all the business stuff on her phone. So if I needed to do something, I just use her phone. It, drives my wife crazy, but, I can't do social media. So it ends up being just me and her time.
Yeah. Why don't you do this? Why don't you tell your admin, your techs, hey, listen, on Tuesday nights, between this, it's only 2 hours.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to sit there. I mean, we go out. We have a thing where we don't go out a lot. We go out maybe every 2 weeks, but every Friday night, doesn't matter what's happening, we sit outside on the patio. We listen to music. We talk about the week. We talk about what's been going on. We have a cigar. We have a couple drinks, and we're there probably 4 to 5 hours by ourselves every single Friday. I take time for me now to have my morning thing, whatever my morning thing is that I want to do, regardless of what's happening. So I wake up at 5, 6, 7. You need to create for yourself time, because what'll happen is that, as part of putting aside a schedule and a routine for you, because of the way we're wired to think, planning time off. Time off.
Yeah.
And it could be, listen, every afternoon at 2 o'clock. I used to do this before I crashed and burned. Every afternoon, I would take off at 2 o'clock. I would go to the gym, and then from there be done by 3, so that I could pick up my son at school by 3:30. My day was done for a couple of hours until I did homework and all this with him, dinner and all that. And then after everybody was done, I would get back to work. But that was my time off, to be able to go to the gym and get some exercise and not carry my phone, not have anything, just go to the gym. It was easier because at 2:30 in the afternoon, there's nobody at the gym. You go at 5, it's a loony house.
Yeah.
But I would go at 2. There was nobody there. I could use every machine I want, get in and get out 30, 45 minutes, get my workout. And I've always been a middle of the day energy guy. Like when I used to work out all the time, and I would have a linen route. My linen route would pass in front of the gym at exactly almost every time. So I know what I would do is stop at 12, take my lunch hour, work out, take a shower, get dressed, get back in that truck within an hour, and then just eat my darn sandwich on the way. But I would get my workout every single day. I haven't been able to work out, to give you an example, in the last going on 3 years now, because I had clinical burnout. But what you got to prepare, that you're young and we think nothing ever is going to happen.
Yeah.
and then you get hit with a bunch of the personal stuff.
Yeah.
And you're working 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. And you're exhausted because you're physically and mentally and emotionally exhausted.
Yeah.
And now something personal comes in your life. It could be your marriage. In my case, it was dealing with my mom's final days, hospice at home. I basically was unable to sleep more than 2 hours for 30 days. I mean, I was on sleeping medication and it wouldn't even work. I would still wake up. Dealing with a divorce, dealing with COVID, having my son at home for 6 months, dealing with him watching his grandmother die. After that, it's buying a house in the middle of a market, boom, where there was no properties available, and spending 3 months with a realtor saying, I got to buy a new home. I got to, because rental was going to cost way more. It was actually cheaper to buy.
Yeah.
When October came, this was April, May, June, July, August, September, October, 9 months of dealing with this chronic stress. And on top of running the business, dealing with the employees. October 31st came. I closed on the house October 20th, somewhere around September. Total burnout. I mean, I literally crashed where I could not get out of bed for months. Months. I mean, it was like, if I could, I would get up for 2 hours, handle the calls, deal with my text, do the route, and then I'd be back in bed. Clinical burnout.
Yeah, that's what my buddy James, what was it, a couple years ago, he went through that, either depression or clinical burnout. Like he slept it all day.
Well, I didn't have depression. I mean, I could literally say, I know what I need to do. I want to do this. Zero energy. I went
Oh,
through
he didn't. He didn't
two
even want.
years.
He didn't care. He
Oh,
didn't
no, no.
care.
I cared. I got up and I did my route and I'm talking to clients and I would rest. Like my body was so exhausted.
Yeah.
It took me 2 years to recover.
Yeah.
To the point where it was chronic fatigue syndrome, clinical, classical chronic fatigue syndrome, where if I would work outside more than 1 hour in the heat, it would be 3 days in bed. It took forever to recover from that. So what people failed, and what I know is from dealing with other people as we get into these issues, that all of a sudden they were working all these hours and wife comes home one day and says, I want a divorce. After you've built, 1, 2, 3, 4 million, $12 million business, now you're faced with dealing with this. And it takes the emotional stuff when you take fatigue, chronic exhaustion, which is where some people get to, and you're working long hours under a lot of stress, because if you take your hands off of it, and there is a point where you've got that curve where you can take your hands off of it, but you're not at the point where you can.
Yeah.
So you can't take your hands off of it. You can't take off our hands everything you're doing, because if you do, it just goes back and reverts to nothing.
Yeah.
And then you get hit with, I got to deal with all the emotional. The tendency for a lot of people is either they do get depressed and they just collapse, or they compartmentalize it and don't deal with it. But sooner or later, it will surface and you'll have to deal with it.
Yeah.
You can only block it out and not deal with it like I did, where I blocked it out for 4 years, dealing with 3 separations during that 4-year period. And then it culminated with my mom's death, the divorce, and COVID, and my son, and having to buy a house. It's like, screw it. That was too much. People are like, why didn't you grow your business over 6 years? Is the emotional problems at home and dealing with the emotional problems. And then not only that, but hey, if I build this up to $1 million when we're in this situation that's uncertain, I'm going to end up losing half of it anyway.
Yeah.
You got to be strategic, and you're thinking, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Nobody understands really when you're talking about things on social media. It's like the little tip of the iceberg and everything that lies beneath that of why is, why can't you do scripts? Why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? Why can't you do that? Because of many factors that
Well,
nobody knows about. And everybody's quick to be judgmental about why
on
you're
the
not doing things.
thing, everybody's, that's the one thing. I think that's probably like the biggest thing I learned from COVID is like quit being so judgmental.
Yeah.
Everybody is, yes, you don't need a coach because you need to be told what to do. You really need a coach because you need somebody there keeping you accountable to do the things that you already know you're supposed to do that you just don't do. It's like going to the gym. You go to
Right.
Planet Fitness and you have all the equipment there and you know what to do, you just do it, but you don't end up doing it. So then you
Right.
go to a gym that you have like a personal coach or whatever, and you're working out because somebody's there telling you what to do and keeping you accountable for it. And you're right, like on the groups, everybody's so judgmental, like, oh, you should be doing this or you should be doing that. At this size, you should be doing this. And
Yeah, that's a high level overview. I get it.
yeah,
Of
reality is,
if we
yeah,
take the averages.
yeah,
Yeah.
you personally might be able to do it, but what is this person going through, mentally, physically, that they can or cannot do it?
I mean,
Maybe
look,
they
education
could
matters.
do it, but one, do they have the desire to? So again, it comes down to everybody's on a different journey. What your goals are different from what my goals are.
Right.
And then two, what are they capable of? Like
Mm-hmm.
where are they happy at, or what are they going through personally that's kind of preventing them from getting to these different spots that's
Right.
like
I mean,
making it
support at
hard
home is
to,
huge because if
yeah,
your wife has no interest in supporting you through this, like I got guys who said, yeah, I started out and I was successful. And then I start peeling away and says, yeah, but how did you go from zero to this? And then when you start asking, well, how much support do you have? Well, my wife actually was making more money than me.
yeah,
She was able to pay all the bills while I focused on the businesses. 99% of us don't have that.
yeah. And I'm in that 1% that has a wife that makes enough money, that has the insurance to where, so I was making 75,000 a year with my other company. Now, I think I'm scheduled to pay myself 37 this year. And people like, oh, you should be paying yourself more. You should be paying yourself more and not having to text. Well, again, it comes back to, I don't want to do this by myself. I'd rather distribute the wealth between other people and even letting them make more than me, and me reinvesting the money back into something that is my retirement. That's what I'm looking at. Some
Right.
people pay into a 401k.
Yeah.
I'm paying into Tailor Made Pest Control. And
Yeah.
I know one day I can sell this thing and hopefully make a decent return so I can live comfortably the rest of my life and enjoy time
Yeah.
with the wife.
And if you're look, it comes down again to all the variables. You got to,
Yeah.
when we look at statistical analysis,
Yeah.
you got to look at all the variables. And if wife is okay, because generally, 99 out of 100 people going to start up a pest control business is going to be the guy. I don't know many women that I know that they would love to be in the pest control industry, just not in the technical part, because
Yeah.
99% of women I know can't stand to see a bug.
Yeah.
Or a rodent or a snake or a lizard. It's just a very strange person, woman wise. My girl sees a roach outside and she's like, but why do you have roaches outside? I said, because I can't stop everything from walking, flying over you, or being around you. You're in South Florida, in the middle of the country. We literally live in the middle of the country. I think I got 40 acres of land that is nothing covered with trees. And you don't want to. So is the support that you have where wife says, okay, I'll support you in this, but within a year's time, you need to be making what you used to be making.
Yeah. Well,
I
we
mean,
had
when you get, I mean, those are real conversations that really happen where she
well,
says, I can only do this alone for so long. I want my lifestyle back.
yeah. Well, we've been fortunate. So when I started, I sat down with Contea and, I wanted to have a talk. I was like, look, if I start my own company, I'm going to be taking a significant pay cut. I'm probably going to have to work another job, and we're going to have to make a lot of cuts. I'm like, that's just where we are, because I had no money
Right.
saved. I had $2,000 in savings account. Um, and so, we knew, so we kind of game planned a little bit on how everything was going to work. She took over all the house bills, because before that I was paying all the bills. It was, this is my house per se. I bought it before we got married, but it's our house. But when we got married and she moved in, I just kept paying up all the bills, and she'd give me money, but I was paying the majority of stuff. When I was fine with it, I was making more money than she was, and it was my house, so I just kept up with that. But then when we started my business, I gave her all the logins to all the bills, electricity, the gas, the water,
Right.
the mortgage, all that, and it comes out of her account, and I gave her money when I could. But I told her, like, it's gonna be probably mainly on you for a while, and because of that, we're gonna have to cut this, and this, and this. So she's like, okay, we can do that. You're unhappy. There's no point being unhappy and making a lot of money. So okay, cool. So I got another job. I worked that for 6 months before pest control took off, and I quit that job. Um, but fortunately, even though I prepared her for that, we've made some cuts, but we haven't made a lot of cuts. We still do a lot of things that we enjoy. We like to eat out. We're foodies,
Mm-hmm.
so we eat out a lot. We go to the movies. That's kind of our thing: movies and food.
Right.
And we haven't cut a lot of expenses. We've cut expenses, but I was telling her, I'm like, we've been really blessed and fortunate that we haven't had to. And while I'm paying more of the bills now, we're still not 50-50. And I'm able to do that because I'm able to make money with Tailor Made and put it right back into the company, either buying equipment, paying, a salary for tech, or whatever the case may be. I'm just putting it right back into the company. And some people like, you should just pay paying yourself, but again, I don't want to. So
Yeah.
it's
I mean, it's a double. I mean, you
so
could pay
I've
yourself.
been able to do that with the support of the wife.
Yeah.
And
And
a lot of
those are
people don't.
the things. And a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I talked to two people, I talked to two people on a daily basis that don't have that
right.
they have to make money. And they can't grow the company the way they want to grow, the way I'm growing it, because they need the income from the business to survive.
Yeah.
And I get it. I'm like, I tell them, I have more respect for you because you're able to actually survive on this, and still grow at a decent rate, 25% rate. So you're doing it
Yeah. I mean,
where
I look, I know guys that were running a $1 million business that were still on a route.
yeah,
And I said, why? Why are you it? And again, everybody's got a different skill set, DNA, education, support, money. Like a lot of guys, look, if you really want to scale, you can continue to pay yourself that 20 something thousand a year, 30,000 a year for the next 7 years, providing you give yourself an annual increase for and put it all back in and build a 2 million, $3 million business that you might be able to sell 2.5, 3x, whatever the market is at that time,
yeah,
and
it's
decide that,
on that.
and that's it, whatever the valuation is. And then other people, it's going to be 5-7 years before they get, I know that they've been at it for 15 before they got into 600,000, because they live in a very expensive market like New York, like New Jersey, where you need, I mean, I live in it's one of the top 3 most expensive places to live in America.
Yeah,
I live in it teeters between number 1 and number 3. I mean, it used to be California. It's no longer. So I've always had to make the money. But I said, can I live within my means and not live, splurge on a lot of things, and pay myself a decent salary while I continue to invest and grow my business? It's just that I decided to sell a niche service with a very high priced with very slow growth. I mean, if you want to grow fast, you sell it cheap, but you have no profit. You're just building up the value of the company. Or if you need to make profit because you need to pay yourself a lot because you're the main breadwinner,
Yeah.
you're going to have slow growth. You got to sell it at high prices.
Yeah.
And then hopefully maybe you're buying and investing in property or doing something else if you don't want to grow the business. But
Yeah.
everybody's got choices. Everybody's got to be able to figure out what their choices are.
Yeah.
In other words, can you bring on a partner now, like your friend, and
Yeah.
say he already knows how to build $1 million business? Is he willing to pump your business with cash? But he's going to say, but you're not working 60, 70, 80 hours a week like I need you to,
Yeah.
because I want to take some more time off for myself. Again, all those variables. It's like it isn't cut and dry. Like get a partner and then you bring on a partner, say, okay, he's going to influx it with cash. He's got the business experience. And now, but for
But
the
now,
next year, my wifey, you're not going to see me.
yeah. Well, but that's the thing. Like people said, like, oh, you should get an investor. And I'm like, I don't want an investor because at the end of the day, if I get an investor, they're becoming my boss. Like
Oh,
they give us,
they're gonna want an exit strategy from
yeah,
you at a
they
certain
give
time.
us money. Yeah, they give us money, and now they want to see how do they get that money back.
Quickly.
And I can't, yeah, and I can't just grow it at whatever pace I'm comfortable with growing it. Now I'm responsible to get them their money back.
Yeah.
And it's a way to do it. I don't, at some
It's
point
a
maybe,
way.
but
There are
I
many
don't.
ways you can go borrow
Yeah,
the money. You can go borrow an SBA loan for 3% if you can
yeah,
still get those, and say, okay, I got 100,000. I'm going to pump it all into marketing
yeah,
and grow it. I mean, either way, it's going to cost you.
yeah,
There's a cost to grow this business. It's either going to bring on partners, bring on cash. You need cash. You need a crap load of cash flow.
yeah.
And
That's
most people, what I know from people going into business, they don't even understand basic business finances, where they don't even have a P&L 2 years in. They have no bookkeeping. The biggest thing I see, the biggest challenge is they made money that year and they didn't realize that they've got to pay their own income tax
yeah,
for that year. And then all of a sudden they owe 5-6 grand and they're like, oh crap, where am I going to get 5-6 grand from? Going into business. So the basic business finance, basic business bookkeeping, basic business knowledge of finances, you need that from day one. Because I see so many, bro. I got hit with a 5,000 my first year, 6,000, 7,000 tax bill, not realizing you got to pay. And then they're declaring, you know, they want the social security on the whole amount and they don't understand the profit sharing and different. It's a lot of things, man. It's a lot of pressure for technicians turned business owners,
yeah.
that people who are business people forget that 99% of us that started out
That
didn't have.
don't.
I mean, I had good
Yeah,
sales knowledge. I've been using accounting my whole life. I studied accounting. I understood it. So I had things, but I've never scaled a business. I managed $2 million businesses.
yeah,
I managed $13 million territories, but I never actually built it.
yeah.
It was
And
under the support of $4 billion and a $10 billion company.
yeah,
And I don't know who the heck wants to talk to me that bad. But I'm going to get back to him in a couple of minutes. But yeah, man, I mean, the burnout thing, it can happen to you. You need to put the safeguards in place to, I think with the way you're wired, um, making less and hiring more and over hiring makes sense to you,
yeah,
as long as everybody else around you who's impacted by it can live with that.
yeah,
If wifey says, yeah, as long as you're making, you'll get to 50, 60,000 a year in income, but as long as, are you happy? Are you not stressed? Do you have time for me?
yeah.
If kids come along, will you have time for the kids?
Yeah, that's the biggest argument right now is when are you going to be happy? And I'm like, I don't know. It's, again, it's like one of those things like, okay, if I achieve what I'm looking to achieve, what's the next thing? So I told her, I don't know. I always need something else, but eventually, hopefully I can look for something else and it'll be more of a hobby and not actually we have to make money.
Yeah.
And then, I've slacked off on it recently, but we've been pretty intentional on spending time with each other
Hmm.
because that's important. Don't want to end it. You don't want to build a multi-million-dollar company and then be divorced at the end of it.
Right.
Um, and we do want kids, so we gotta have time in there for kids and us.
Hmm.
So it becomes a matter of still got to spend time with the wife, and then you still got to spend time with the kids and the wife, and then
Hmm.
potentially they get older, time with just the kids. So your time now becomes stretched even thinner,
Yeah.
and it just you got to be. I'm learning that you have to be really good at organization, and that's one thing that I thought I was pretty good at, but I'm not.
Right.
Um, and
Let
so,
me ask you this: how because you mentioned something, and it's typical, um, that you're not happy right now where you're at, or you weren't happy working for somebody else, but you don't feel happy. Is happiness um something that's hard for you to say? I mean, if you're around your and all this, are you a happy person genuinely, or just feel that there's so much for you to achieve that you're overwhelmed by it? And
so
and
So I think, like, in general, I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky person.
Mhm.
Like, I don't let too much things bother me. Like, my wife, she'll get stressed out if this happens, and oh my gosh, how the world's ending.
Right.
Versus me, like then she gets mad at me because she's like, well, why aren't you pissed? Or why aren't you mad? Or why aren't you frustrated? I'm like, I don't know, we'll figure it out. And like that's how I kind of go through life, and that's how I'm going through businesses. I don't know, we'll figure it out. But um, I don't know. Like I think I'm a I'm a super emotional person. I'm
Mhm.
either super high or I'm super low. And there's never an in between of where I'm content. Happiness comes when I've achieved something and we've done something or we get an award or whatever the case may be. We won a game or whatever the case may be. And then the lows come in when um, I I am a workaholic and I do like I'm a perfectionist. So I try to, probably achieve more than what I probably should be trying to achieve or whatever.
Mhm.
And because of that, because of the goals and aspirations that I have, I feel like I should be doing more. Or again, you shouldn't be doing it, but I do it consistently. I compare myself to other people because I talk to a lot of people. I
Mhm.
talk to you, I talk to Chopin, I talk to Seth, I talk to Paul, because I talk to Sorrentinos up in Michigan. I talk to all these people and I see where they're at. I'm like, man, or the best one is Sean out in Colorado with Obex. He's goes out on Memorial Day and sells 15 jobs on a holiday. Um, but I see all these people doing things, and I'm like, man, what am I doing? Because I'm like, well, they're doing all this, and I'm just doing this.
Mhm.
So I think I'm doing pretty good. Or I talk to other people that want to asking me how I'm doing it, so I feel like they think I'm doing a decent job. Or even the people that are doing other stuff, they're like, man, you're doing really good for your situation. But then I see other people, I'm like, man, I should be doing this. I should be doing
Yeah,
that.
I put out a post on that.
Like,
A common way to be unhappy,
yeah,
especially when we have the amount of social media that we have, that we can see everybody's
good.
persona, where everybody thinks for years everybody thinks, oh, the guy's crushing, he's doing this, he's doing that, he must have 10 people, he must. I've never said I had,
Yeah,
but everybody makes assumptions about what it is I'm doing and what I've done and what I've accomplished, and they never see my struggles.
yeah,
They never seen what I went through to just get here.
yeah. And
That
that's
it
what I post a
that
lot of.
it almost destroyed me,
Yeah,
mentally, emotionally. So when you look at putting together business coaches, people that are around you, you also need to look at talking to, having a therapist
yeah,
as a coach, as a mentor,
yeah,
because the highs and the lows are typical in ADHD and in people in emotions, where, but we need to stop looking at what everybody else appears to be doing,
yeah,
and we look at all the variables. I mean, you look at Maria, she had a partner with money come in,
yeah,
lots of money.
Yeah.
And I don't know the number, but to pull off what they were able to pull off, I know what it costs to market, and it's $150 per client to bring in on Google Ads or whatever ad. It's about $150 to $250 per lead. If you're going to be that much growth, you need to throw in some serious cash at this. You look at Obex, guy came from
cash,
and he comes from a door-to-door sales
and he's
company.
all other businesses too.
But understand it, it's DNA.
Yeah.
If he's a businessman and he's DNA, you can't compete with DNA. You can't duplicate it. You can't match it. So when we look at, wives that were able to stay at home and support their husband making $80,000, $90,000 a year because they were nurses.
Yeah.
Well, I never had that. I supported my household. I didn't have an enormous amount of cash. As a matter of fact, I started with nothing.
Yeah.
So we when we're comparing, we don't ever have 1% of the comparison to put it all together and say, why do this? Why do that? Yeah. And the issue is how content can you be? Contentment is important.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't know. I come from a very a sports background. Growing up, I love sports. Everything was sports, and I wanted to coach professionally. So I coached high school football for 5 years. And I think a lot of my comparison, like, it's not really like a comparison of like an envy type thing. Like, I'm not envious of people.
No, I understand.
I know people work hard for what they got, and we have a ton of respect for that. I think a lot of my comparison comes from, in sports, it's all about stats. Where do you stand in the rankings, like in the standings? Right. Where do you measure up with other people because you're competing head to head with people? Yeah. And so I'm very competitive.
Yeah,
it's not a matter of like I'm trying to one up somebody.
Yeah,
it's a matter of being from the sports background, you want to be the best. Right. And so I want to be the best. And what's the best? You can't quantify the best.
Here is one of the things I've learned, because again, the danger is you're going to your sports analogy. I want to be the best. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you're a punter, you're never going to be a quarterback.
Nope.
So you can't compare, because you can't compare the success. So you got to say, do I have the business DNA? Am I a business person? Have I always been a business person? I was a business person when I was selling lemonade and I was 4 years old. You said I never wanted to be into business. I reluctantly had to do this, but I'm competitive. I said the thing you need to compete against is your own KPIs.
Yeah.
In other words, if I strive every day for improvement and everything improves day over day, week after week, month after month, eventually I will have what I am designed to be, irrespectful of everybody else's achievement, because I can't have what they have. So therefore it's useless to try to compare against it.
Yeah.
It's a futile exercise.
Yeah.
So if you say, if we did 300,000 this year, because I am competitive, can we do 20% more?
Yeah.
Can we improve route density?
Yeah.
So every day, like I just spent 20 hours 2 months ago fixing route density. What I figured out is I could get one technician to do 80% of what 2 technicians could do without adding any more hours to his day.
Yeah.
A route efficiency went from 20 minutes tops apart to now we're somewhere around between 9 and 13 minutes.
Yeah.
Major improvement. So I don't measure myself against what anybody else is doing in the industry, because I know pretty much what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
It's, where can I improve on a daily basis? Where can I improve my mental state?
Yeah.
My emotional state, my experience state. In other words, how do I improve as a person?
Yeah.
And make myself what I need to become, irrespectively of everybody. In other words, you can't be an island. You got to know. In other words, you got to know what averages are.
Yeah.
So you can beat the averages.
Yeah. And I think, I think we are beating the averages,
Yeah.
talking to other people and talking to some business coaches and stuff. Like, I think we are beating the averages. So, I mean, yeah, I say I'm unhappy. But I think it's just a matter of, um, I'm I'm proud of where we are and what we've done in the last 2 years.
Hmm.
But it's a matter of always like what's next. It's
You
like,
have to,
okay,
because you got to be
so it's like,
competitive.
okay, so you're here. So what's next after that? So it's not necessarily like I'm depressed or I'm like unhappy. That's just the word I use. It's a matter
Mhm.
of what's next after we hit this milestone. Then we do X, and that's just the
But you got to
competitive.
understand the importance of the psychology it plays when you're using words to yourself. I'm
Yeah,
unhappy. And then she hears it
yeah,
and she interprets that. Why are you unhappy? In other words, her interpretation of what you're saying, you're unhappy, or
yeah.
people around you, it's like, when are you going to be happy? When is it going to be enough? When? And I got people that I talk to who've built $12 million business, $13 million business, and they say, Frank, it's an issue a lot of times of insecurity. When I talk to them, these are
It
some
is.
very successful people, by the way, who are very insecure.
And that's the other thing too. I've always been like, so a lot of my ego or being proud or whatever, I think does come from being insecure. Whether, I wasn't the most athletic growing up as a kid, even though I was in the sports arena, not the most academic. So I wasn't getting the best grades, picked on as a kid. So there's a lot of insecurities growing up that I still have as an adult.
Yeah.
Even insecurities of I hate the way I talk, I hate the way I look when I'm on camera or on video or in pictures. And people ask all the time, well, how do you do it? Like your stuff's amazing. I'm like, I just do it. They're like, well, I hate the way I look. I'm like, I hate the way I look. I'm like, I don't edit videos, not because I don't know how to do it, even though I don't really, like, I'm learning. I don't do it because if I edit my videos, I'd never post it. So it just like I make sure that everything is right. I didn't say anything crazy or stupid or illegal, and then we just post it
Yeah.
because otherwise they would never get posted.
Oh,
Uh,
that's what I do. I mean, I don't edit anything. I never
yeah,
have. I never, like, even these shows, I never edit them. It is
yeah.
what it is. I don't want to waste the time
Well, and that's the
perfect,
thing.
and I
I'm
don't want to
always
perfect a
that too.
persona of myself that
Yeah,
isn't real. And
yeah.
I don't want to measure every word I say to come across as, wow, this guy's so educated.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I'd rather people see me in my underwear.
Yeah.
That way it doesn't create an unrealistic expectation. I said, when you meet me, keep your expectations
And
really low.
and you've and you've inspired me. So like the journey and the journey, or
Right.
the video blogs that I'm doing.
Right.
A lot of times, people get on to me because I post a lot of, or I sound unhappy because I use a word, or I post a lot of things that get me down, or I post a lot of what I've done wrong or failures that's happened.
That's
And I
fine.
do that because, well, that it is fun. And I'm content with doing it because one, I'm open book. I'm going to show you the good, bad, and ugly
It is,
of
and that's
everything
good.
I do. And the other thing too is, like you said, a lot of times you listen to these podcasts are edited, they're taking out all the bad and just shared the good. And
Right.
that's what happens a lot of time, with the PCT 100 or these companies that are like posting what they're doing or in the groups. Oh, we've done this or we've done that. Again, you haven't seen the struggles. How did you get to 5 million in 3 years? Or what did you do to grow your business? What struggles did you do? Because it
Right.
sounds like it's all roses and flowers.
Yeah. I started calling,
You had
I
no
started,
struggles
yeah.
growing to $5 million when that is not true. You had struggle, even if you had capital invested into you, you had struggles to grow your business. It might have been different struggles than what I'm going through, but
Yeah.
everybody has struggles and nobody posts about that. And
Right.
so when you have these new people that are techs turned business owners, they feel lonely because they see what everybody else is doing and none of the bad.
Right.
And so
No, and the
I
hard
might,
decisions on a day-to-day basis that,
yeah,
give you gastritis. I mean, listen, I had a hose shoved down my throat and a hose shoved up my butt. because I've for 9 months after all this stress, it affected my stomach. I got gastritis, diverticulitis, hemorrhoids. My digestive system is trashed.
Yeah.
That's the reality of the stress you go through. And what I hate is the sunshine, rainbows, and purple unicorns.
Yeah.
Everybody's painting like if you just follow my program, you too will be a pest control millionaire, end the struggles. You will have your wife happy and, and a 10-incher. I mean, to end it all, it's like, no, this is not the reality for 99%. Look, I ran the stats. I'm doing a master class for business people that are starting out that want to go from being employed to being self-employed.
Yeah.
And that's, that turns out to be about 70% of people that go into business. 70% of small businesses in America. 70%. This is a statistic that's true.
Yeah.
70% of businesses in America are self-employed. 70%.
Yeah, I believe that.
The percentage that ever make it to $1 million is somewhere between 6 and 11%, depending on the industry you're in.
Okay.
And the ones that get over 4 employees, 80%, I think it's 80% or more, have less than 4 employees. So the percentage of the businesses that get started up and actually grow is like that. So when you tell me you're going to buy my program and you're going to be so successful, what I tell people is if you buy my program, all I can hope to do for you is tell you where all the pitfalls are, and you'll have better success than if you tried to do this your own way without getting the right help. That's why I said get mentors, get coaches around you, get the mental health that you need, get the physical health that you need, get all this stuff because you're going to need it.
Yeah, no, and
and 90% of people don't want that. They don't want to be accountable to anybody. They put themselves in a little bubble. And my wife doesn't understand. Nobody understands. I'm by myself in this world. Poor me. Nobody's. But no.
Well, that's a difference. Like I feel alone because starting out, I didn't have that many friends. I keep a pretty tight circle, which is fine. But the people that are friends, everybody has opinions. It's just like assholes. Everybody has an asshole. And it's amazing how many people have opinions on business that's never started a business.
Of course.
And
usually from bad stats.
Family, yeah.
99% of businesses fail. You shouldn't go into it. Yeah. The reality is that first year business is only 80%, 20% of business that fail the first year.
Yeah.
That means 80% make it. The reason you don't make the 20% don't make it is because they don't listen to a podcast like this. They're listening to the Purple Unicorn, and then they're listening to all their friends who never started a business with all the negative stuff instead of just saying, let's just look at the facts.
Yeah. Or I had a lot of people say, yeah, you can do it, so they're supportive of it, and then they like, well, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. I'm like, well, that's terrific. I should run Google ads, but you know what?
I don't have money.
You know what it takes to run Google ads? Money. You know what? I don't have money. So
I tell people when I'm doing the consulting is let's find out what you can do.
Yeah.
Let's fix what's really messed up.
Yeah.
In other words, your route is messed up, your accounting is messed up. Let's just build the foundations because you haven't built any foundations. Yeah. Let's build the foundations. Get good stats, good accounting, know where your money's at, know where your KPIs are in 3 things. Like I've got a very simple KPI that I track on a spreadsheet month after month. How many calls did we get? How many calls did we convert?
Yeah.
How many jobs did we finish? How much revenue we had and how much new revenue we got. And then on the financial side is how much money do we owe? How much money is owed to us? It's pretty simple to keep nice KPIs, very simple. Yeah. But I don't have QuickBooks. I'm paying an accountant. Why are you paying an accountant $150 a month to keep books when you're losing money every month?
Yeah.
It literally takes 10 minutes a month to do accounting on QuickBooks. If you set it up.
You can still have a bookkeeper because I have a bookkeeper, but I don't pay her a lot because I got QuickBooks. And then all she does is every couple months make sure everything that I've categorized is right. And
well, you can send them to her. It says, hey,
what
I
I'm
want to make sure
doing.
my P&L's right. I want to make sure my balance sheet is right.
And she
And my,
prepares all
yeah,
she prepares all my financials and sends it off to the tax person that does taxes.
yeah.
So
A payroll company. Do you got a payroll company?
yeah, well, yeah, we use Gusto.
Yeah, that's
So
what we use too. From day one,
mm-hmm,
I've paid myself even when I was solo, because
mm-hmm,
all the taxes were paid. And at the
yeah.
end of the year, my accountant says I've had the same accountant, the same
Oh,
CPA
yeah.
for 20, God, 20 something years now. He's been my CPA.
Yeah, and that that's the one thing that I'm trying to teach my tech who's trying to start a business is she's like, well, why don't you do your own payroll? I'm like, because I'm not an accountant. It goes back to who, not how.
Let me tell you, I
Uh,
tried doing it once and I got hit for a $1,700 tax bill.
yeah,
And they
that's
garnished
what I
my
told her.
account because they said, you owe us the money. I'm saying, show me where. I
Yeah,
don't know where it is. That's your job to figure it out with your accountant. And because the payroll company we were using screwed up, they're like, nah, we didn't screw up. Here it is. You screwed up. They're saying I owe them the money.
yeah,
And I ended it up. I mean, these are the real issues that people don't talk about. Like, you get garnished for somebody
yeah.
screwing up.
Oh, the
And,
IRS is going to get their money,
and
whether
they
you,
did. And they just
whether
garnished
you
my
mess up
account and hid
or
it for
not. They
seventeen
don't
hundred
care.
bucks. Yeah.
Yeah,
So get a
and,
payroll company that's company like Gusto, put it on there, get QuickBooks. Every day, I mean, with field routes, all the income is imported directly. All your bank accounts are linked to QuickBooks.
yep.
10 minutes a week is what it takes to do, the books. Just approve. Okay, this was this, approve, done. And that's it. You don't have to do anything more. So you can relieve a lot of the stress and delegate a lot of things by buying the software. Why, it costs, I think the cheap account for QuickBooks, I forget, it's like 20
Like
bucks a month.
$30.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, because I got the QuickBooks Online. It's $30.
Yeah,
It
that's what
helps.
we have. Yeah.
It
I think
helps
I
track
pay 45 for
mileage.
mine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it helps track mileage. It tracks the expenses. Like I just click a button and it
It's
makes
it's
sure
all
I get
track.
the
It's all done
expenses.
automatic. Once you
And
set up the chart of accounts, pay your accounnt to set up your chart of accounts.
and
Um,
the charted account is set up, the P&L set up, and I can
yeah,
easily see with the graphs, you know, were we profitable this month? Oh shit, we were not. We were negative this month.
yeah,
I can easily see all that, and I use that and I share that information with my tech and office person. I share it
yeah,
in everything.
yeah.
And I'm like, and people are like, oh, you shouldn't be sharing everything. I'm like, I'll share it all. I'm like, because when I say I need you to work 10 hours of overtime this month, I can show you why. I can show you like I'm anticipating this amount of work coming in. And
Right.
for us to get this amount of work done, this is what we have to do. Or I can say, I can't afford any overtime this month. And this is why.
Yeah.
Because we've been negative the past 2 months for the quarter and we're fine, but I need to get that money built back up so we're not completely a sinking ship.
Yeah.
And so
And
like
that's important to
I can tell
understand
you
it.
why. Or the text like, well, we should buy this equipment. Well, why? One, I don't have the money for it. And two, what benefit is that going to bring us to invest in that sort of thing? It's no longer a boss saying no to something or this is what we need to do.
Right.
They understand now, even if I don't explain to them this very minute, that if I give a decision for something, it is based off actual facts
Right.
versus they don't know why. And
Yeah.
that's where a lot of employee discontentment comes from is not knowing why a decision would be
They're not
made.
being engaged in
Yeah.
the thing. And like I do with my guy, I said, listen, I'm going to send you on today, but this call came in. It's important that we handle it. It's going to take you out of your way. It's going to mess up your route. I rarely do it, but I got no choice. We got to get it done. It's too far for me to go handle it. We got to go do it. Here's why. Usually, I get a lot of buy-in from what they're doing. Hey, what do you think is going on at that property? What do you think is going on here? What do you think is going? Do you need me to go with you? Do you need me to help? Um, it's a lot of that, but in the whole issue of the stress management, a lot of the times we put stuff on ourselves that doesn't need to be on there.
Yeah.
And we got to say no to things that we shouldn't. The hardest part is learning to say no. No, I don't have the time for that. No, I can't get involved in that right now. No, that's not my initial, like my kids is like, we need a yes day. You're the movie, your yes day. Like
Yeah.
I'm no dad, but I'm the one that has to say no to a lot of things. And my first response is to say no, because I have so much on my plate that this is going to add something and else, like my honey-do list at home. It's like it gets updated every day. I said Jesus is going to return before this gets done. Just know that it's not going to happen. But like on the weekends, I'll do 4 or 5 things. Like I switched 2 outlets out. I'm replacing the plates in the house. I had to build the back of my patio out. I got to remodel. I just remodeled upgraded my kitchen. I remodeled the bathroom. Things that take. But I've learned to say no to a lot of things, and a lot of mindset and mind frame, and why do we think the way we do, has to do a lot with our upbringing.
Yeah.
I come from dad died when I was 5, single mom, Hispanic. I didn't bring you to this country for you to be a bum. Always drilled into me, you had to be successful. I had no idea what it was, how to be a dad, how to be a husband, because my dad died when I was 5. My mother raised me by herself. The example she had as a boyfriend, he used to get drunk and get verbally abusive. I mean, that was my cancer at 10 years old until I was 18. I mean, a lot of it has to do with how we were brought up. I mean, when I tell people, how's the relationship with your dad? What's that like?
Mm-hmm.
It matters, because it helps us understand that we can't just say you should be doing this, you should be doing that. I got to figure out where you're at mentally and emotionally, because everything stems from there.
Yeah.
I can train you to do everything. I can train you to do a P&L. I can train you to do marketing. I can train you to do Google ads. I can train on all the technical stuff.
Yeah.
Where is the person emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically? I mean, if you're overweight, how much can you can't go into crawl spaces.
Yeah.
There's things that everybody's got limitations, and trying to deal with that. And when I find out with a lot of men that I talk to, a lot of it does stem back to the relationship with their father. We've had an absenteeism of fathers in this country for a long time, where even if they are present and they are in the family, 50% divorce rate.
Mm-hmm.
Dads don't show up for anything. They just send a paycheck, and girls don't know what it's like to look for what they're looking for in a man, and men have no idea what it's like to be a man.
Yeah.
And this is the situation we're in, where a lot of young people are getting into this career. 28 years old, they still don't know what a career is.
Mm-hmm.
When I grew up, if by 18 years old you didn't have a career planned out, you didn't have a girlfriend and plans to get married, something was seriously wrong with you. Today, you can be 28 years old, still be at home, not finish college. Dad's never been around. Mom is raising you by herself, and you're playing video games, and you're 30 years old. And it's okay.
It's even if you have both parents in the household too, though, sometimes nowadays.
It makes it a lot easier, because it's tough raising a kid. I'm telling you. I know, because I'm divorced. I know what it's like. But people are like, why do you have to? Because I got to every day. Like, why can't I be out in the field? And I can every day since that son was born and went into school, I pick him up from school.
Yeah.
Every single day. It does not matter. Every Thursday, I have a date with my daughter. Every Monday, both of my kids are having dinner with me. Every other weekend, they're home with me. That's my priority.
Yeah.
It's not the business.
Yeah.
That's my priority now. When I was single, it was other things.
Yeah.
But now it's homework has to get done. Where's your homework? Doctor's appointment, I'm there. Recital, I'm there. End of school, I'm there. Teacher parent meeting, I'm there.
Yeah.
No excuses. So time for the wife, time for the girlfriend, time for everybody. Everybody wants a piece of you.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to learn to say no. And it's like, no, I'm not going to get involved in this. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to Pest World. I'm not going to. It's just, what is important? What is important and what is urgent? Everything that comes across the phone, email is urgent. Not everything is important.
Yeah. And that's where, you're talking about the honey-do list that won't get done until Jesus comes back. Well, I feel like that's like my honey-do list and just list in general for things to get done with the business. Like my wife is super organized, makes a list, it gets done. And, she, what everybody's definition of everything's different. I've learned that real quick. Like she says, oh, I got a list that's going to take me forever to get done. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, it's going to take her forever. Well, then an hour or 2 hours later, she's done with it.
Right.
So
I mean, I'm not kidding you, bro. I'm not
yeah.
kidding you. She does the laundry, so it's my job to put it away. Put away laundry. Scotch guard the sofa and rug. Donate to Goodwill. Put up blue canvas in the office.
Yeah.
Pick up the mail. I mean, and the reason she's got to put a lot of this stuff is I won't remember to do it.
Well, no, that's the biggest thing. The biggest argument I've had with Contea is like, if you want something done, it's got to get written down for me. So
Yeah,
we got
she sends it to me. Look, I don't know if I can. I can't see it with all the because I got a light hitting me. But yeah, it's a huge list of everything I got to do. So I got to look at it every day. All right, did I get this done? Did I get this done? Did I get this done? All right, this is going to get done Saturday. I'm going to spend 4 hours.
Well,
I literally budget my time at home.
Yeah, even things with like this Friday is like the fall festival at school. So that has to get put on the schedule. They get to put on pest routes and on Google calendars. So I know like we're not putting any pest control stuff on like Friday afternoon. Anything like that. If we want to do something together on a date night specifically, that gets put on the calendar. So everything's got to get written down. And it's gotten to the point where Sarah and Contea talks to each other because Contea wants this put on. So she talks to Sarah, she gets put on the schedule. And, you're saying I have to learn to say no. Well, for me, it's like I delegated the no part because I have a horrible time saying no. And so I say yes to everything and then, drop the ball on a ton of stuff.
So I'm very blunt and candid now, even with her, with everybody in my household. Hey, listen, I only got so many hours.
Yeah.
So like Saturday, I'm going to work Saturday morning at the house. Like I said, this Saturday, I got 2 switches set out that needed to, she didn't like the way they looked. So I did the switches. There was a stain on the couch. I got the stain out. I worked on, it was like 3 things that I said, oh, change a light upstairs in the hallway. She wanted a different lamp. She didn't like that one. So she got the new lamp, she buys it and she just puts it where it's supposed to go so that I'm walking through the house and seeing all this like little, rabbit tracks through the whole house. But she knows if it like the laundry will get done like today when she gets home from work, the laundry will be put away because she spent all Saturday doing the laundry.
Yeah.
So, but what I do is I'm very candid at telling people, okay, this is what's going to take because I've done this before. It's going to take me so many hours. After I'm done with this, I'm done. Like I just had an awning put in my here. I try to coordinate with 3 contractors in Miami. It's like winning the Powerball. Okay, it isn't going to happen. I had to trim that tree because I couldn't get a tree contractor. It was probably going to cost about $1,600 to trim that tree because my awning was directly over. I had to trim the tree back. Had to do the awning, paint the awning because I couldn't get a guy, and then get a guy to haul away the trash and get the gutter guy to come in and install the gutter over the awning when they took the old awning out to do it within a week. I spent 4 days in my house coordinating this. And people are like, just contact somebody, call somebody, coordinate. It's 17 phone calls.
Yeah.
And it's much easier. It would have cost me, well, 3, 4, 6 grand. Just like that, and call somebody. It's like the awning guy has had my order with my deposit for 2.5 months. It was supposed to take 3 weeks. Like I said, it's like, why don't you just call somebody? Have you tried calling a contractor? Getting them coordinated, it's like endless amount of hours, frustration on the phone, just getting these things done. So therefore, that's why you just have to be very candid about, okay, I'll get this done for you, but I'm only going to get A, B, and C done.
Yeah.
DNF is going to have to wait till next week. It isn't going to get
My
done.
problem is like I've always been somebody that's tried to be a pleaser, try to please everybody, make sure everybody's happy, everybody's got what they need. Like I've always kind of had like a servant, I guess, mindset or attitude. And so I always try to say that yes, and it's yes to everything. Well, that's the other reason why I got Sarah is Sarah's very blunt, for better for worse. And so I'll call her like, hey, this needs to be put on the schedule. She's like, well, how? I'm like, what do you mean how? Like in my mind, I was like, I told you what to do, and you put it on, and we get it done. She's like, well, you already committed to this. And then I'm like, well, crap. So now, so that's why like now, like I feel bad, but customers call me on the cell or text me, even though I try to get most people to go through the business line. And if they do, that's fine. I'll talk to them. But I've learned, I'm learning to not commit to anything. Because I will commit. They will like give me some sob story, and now I'm feeling bad, and then I'll commit, and then I have to backtrack on something, because I've already committed to 5 million things. So now it's more of, okay, you told me what problem you have it in, so I got all the information. Now for me, it's like, great. I don't handle any of my scheduling. I got your information. Sarah's going to call or text you from the business line, and she's going to get it scheduled. And some people are frustrated because why can't you do it? And I'm like, well, I could, but the problem is when I do it, my schedule looks like a kid took a crayon and drew on the map to get me all over the place. Versus I have her do it, it looks like a route. And so
I mean, I do the same thing now. I mean, I'm on the road when I have to be on the road, and I have to do, like, I'm training a new tech, requires me to be on the road, but I'm still having to answer 16 calls a day. Literally, I handle about 16 calls a day in addition to email and texts. And what I tell people is, look, unfortunately, I'm on the road right now. I'm not going to remember. I'm honest. I'm not going to remember. Send me a text. As soon as I get back to the office, I'll look at the schedule and I'll call you back with a date. End of story. In other words, I need it done tomorrow. Well, right now, I don't know when it can be done tomorrow. Or I say, look, it's not going to be done tomorrow. We're booked out this much. I got to see what I can do for you. But my answer right now is no. People don't, like, you can't tell a customer. Yes, you can. You can tell a customer no the right way. Everybody's human. I said, listen, right now we're short-staffed. It's been raining for 3 days. We're backed up. And I'm going to put you on the schedule. So call your doctor and say, I need an appointment for tomorrow. He's going to say, go to urgent care.
Yeah. Well, that's the one thing I think COVID's helped with is most everybody's short-staffed now. So I don't tell people we're short-staffed. I'm like, we're just a small company. We're 3 people. So I'm sorry that.
Well, most of my customers know that because we already had the discussion.
Oh, so, yeah. And that's the one thing about content marketing that's done. We build a personal relationship.
Right.
And with people before they even call us. So a lot of times they'll wait for us. But you do get the people that's like, well, I don't understand. It says you're a 24-hour company and you should be able to have somebody out here today. I'm like, well, we are a 24-hour company. And you know what that means? Our schedule fills up really quick on these other hours too, not just normal business hours, because we are 24 hours. So
who's answering your calls on a 24-hour basis?
I have an answering service that answers calls when the answers overflow calls, and then after hours, if I don't answer it, a lot of times I answer it. So if I'm home, I'll answer it, and then get them scheduled or whatever, or tell them we'll call them to schedule them in the morning. But if I don't answer it or they call, because we get a lot of calls at like 2 or 3 a.m., a ton of calls. It's an answering service, and then they email, text us, and then we call them back in the morning.
So. Yeah, that's what we used to do that, except the call service in Miami was so bad. At one point, I've had 3 companies.
Same struggle.
Yeah, I mean, everybody says delegate, find a company, do this. I
Yeah.
said, you're going to go through 3 companies on everything you want to do, 3,
Yeah.
4, 5 companies before you find one. Like, you need an SEO company,
And
you'll go through 10 of them
you're gonna
before
find
you
a
figure one.
company and you're still not gonna be happy with them. So like this is my third answering service company. The first one was okay. I thought it could be better. So I went to
No, they were
company.
dropping like 40% and 60% of our calls weren't getting. I would sit on the phone literally for 6 minutes before somebody would answer that call.
Yeah, I think we had the same company before together. But yeah, I was having problems with them dropping calls, telling people we don't service something. Like this one company said that we didn't do bed bugs, roaches, um, and wildlife. And I'm like, where did you get that? I'm like, first of all, I don't know what company don't do roaches. I don't know what company don't do mice. Bed bugs I could maybe see, but we've definitely done bed bugs, and you've taken calls for bed bugs.
Yeah.
And we've done wildlife, and you've taken calls for wildlife. So I don't know why. And their best answer was, well, we're sorry, we'll get it right next time. And I'm like, you just
That
lost.
script should have been done already.
Well, and it was, but they're like, oh, well, the script was having a bug in it. I'm like, I don't understand. So then I'm like, I just need, because this one company said they could sell and schedule. Well, we went through round and round to where I'm like, no, you don't do any scheduling. I just need you to get information and then send me the information. Well, we can't do that. I'm like, why can't you do that? It's a simple form of name, address, cell. How did you hear about it?
Because they want to make money off the commission, off the sale, because that's how they make their money. I get it. I mean, I've had guys go through this. It's like, bro, unless you're selling one service with one price, it's impossible.
So it was a contract, and I got out of the contract because they're like, well, you got to pay the cancellation fee. I'm like, I'm not paying the cancellation fee. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you've lost me potentially $2,000 in work. I'm like, I get it. We're in charge of selling it, so I can't say there is money that is already in the bank. I'm like, but you've lost me the opportunity to make $2,000. Yeah. I'm like, that $2,000 is more than that cancellation fee. I'm like, so I'm not paying it. And I went round and round in circle with the collections department. I'm like, send me to whoever you want. I'm like, I'm not paying it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm not paying what I actually owe until you say that I'm not going to owe you the cancellation fee. I'm like, because of this, I'm like, I can prove to you with the phone call recorded that you guys recorded. And I've got email conversations of, yes, we do bed bugs. Yes, we do this. Yes, I've had 5 Zoom calls with your people to get this corrected. I'm like, it's not like it's a first time thing.
I mean, think about all the time that this has already cost you. I mean, the time that it takes to find the company.
Yeah.
To set everything up, because there's setup times and this. Then the issues with the company, and if you listen to every podcast, well, if you just hire a company to answer your phones, your problem is solved. If you just hire a VA overseas, your problem is solved. I mean, it's like the enormous amount of time it takes.
Yeah,
to get any of this done.
It's even more strain, I think, when you're like a solo entrepreneur or with just 1 or 2 techs. Because you're still wearing so many hats.
I still wear. I mean, I don't have a marketing hat, but I still do 50% of the marketing.
Yeah.
I got a full-time guy to do all of our content building marketing pages. Like we just entered a new county. It took almost a month to build out 50 pages.
Yeah.
For that county, for the cities. Yeah. I mean, and I know the cost. Like I just had a company, I want to switch. This is it. I mean, I'm paying 5%. I'll give you an example of Burnout. I'm paying 5% to take credit cards. Yeah. Oh no, the market, you should be doing 1.8%. I said no, because Pest Routes has you locked up with WorldPay. Yeah. WorldPay puts you in tiers.
Yeah.
And basically you don't have a choice if you want to use their system, who you're gonna opt, because then if you got to do it manually. So I can save 1 point, I can go to a 3% on the market versus the 5% that I'm paying now, but I have to have a separate software, and then I have to manually match all the accounts. I said, There's no savings there. I'm going to save $600 a month. I got to hire an admin.
Well, that's what I try to explain. I've had multiple credit card processors come to me and be like, we can save you 2 to 3%. I'm like, well, that's terrific. I'm like, the problem is that 2 to 3% that you're saving me is not worth my time.
It
Like, what do
isn't.
you mean? I'm like, well, I'm like, Field Routes is not going to integrate with you because they have their own,
Yeah.
have their own credit card processor, which makes sense. I'm like, so if I go to you, I'm gonna lose 3/4 of the usage of the customer
Yeah.
portal because they can't pay online anymore. I'm gonna have to manually run credit cards for auto pay that I don't do. I wake up and I got money that's going to be deposited in 2 days. I'm like, when we
Yeah.
take a card, I can no longer do it in the one app. I have to go to another app to take your credit card processor, and then I'm gonna have to pay somebody to manually enter in
Yeah.
that we took money in for this customer.
There's no
So
savings.
an invoice.
I have to hire a
After I
position to have the savings.
after I pay somebody to make sure everything is recorded properly, the time wasted with the tech and me for how we get the money that we collected, what I'm paying annually, like I ran the numbers on 131,000 last year. I think I paid like 30,000 in credit card fees.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that $30,000 that I paid was worth every penny of it because I didn't have to worry about if I was going to get that money or not. I got
Yeah.
the
I
money.
mean, the argument from the salesperson is, well, we have software that you can, yeah, but then I have to still match it. And then I got to create, and I said, yeah, and we're not going to switch software because I've already done one migration that took 30 days, and it took me about 100 hours to do the migration. 100 hours, that's 15 grand that it cost me to do a migration.
Yeah, that's what one of the credit card guys was like, oh, well, you could switch to Gorilla Desk because they would let us integrate with them. I'm like, well, that's terrific. I'm like, the only problem is now I'm gonna have to data entry. Even if Gorilla Disc did it, there's still going to be mistakes because I've been through a merge before.
Migration.
There's always mistakes. On top of that, I have to pay a cancellation fee with Field Routes, and
that's
now
peanuts anyway.
Well, yeah, that's anyways. But then now I'm going to have to spend hours training Sarah and Carrie on a new platform that I've spent hours already on training them on Field Routes.
Yeah, it's a $30,000-$40,000 investment. Easy.
I don't have the time to do that.
Yeah, the lost revenue opportunity. Yeah, it's just, well, but we can easily migrate. Yeah, but I got to create contracts. I got 600, and I got a database of like, I think 2,500 clients.
Yeah.
I mean, getting all that set up again.
I only have 250. I'm not like, and that's nothing, but that's still a lot of time that I have to do to.
Yeah. I mean, the easy button that everybody paints, if you just buy my program, listen to my podcast, if you just hire a person, I said, hiring a person and hiring a company is no different because you're going to have to go through 5-4 companies, like SEO companies. The last one cost me 10,000, just 10,000 in fees. But what it cost me in revenue was over $30,000.
Yeah.
In a month's time.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like, I'd rather build an in-house agency and learn to do it myself because I am doing SEO, because I am doing content marketing, because I am doing other things that 90% of people aren't doing because they're focused on Google ads. LSA ads. Have you done local service ads for Google in your area?
No.
Miami, $125 per call. Easy. 150 per call. In some markets, 250.
I've been told it's like 50-ish.
It depends on your market. It means you've got very little competition. But now, I mean, fees are outrageous. Like real qualified leads, $60 to $80 for a real qualified lead.
Well, that was it. So I just hired. It used to be Lobster Marketing to help me with my website because it's the who, not how. But I went round and round with circles with them because they were trying to sell me on their marketing package, their SEO package. And I'm like, I don't need it. They're like, what do you mean you don't need it? Like, it's not the SEO package. There's the Google, there's the advertisement package or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm like, at this point, I'm not at the place to spend that type of money to do it. But they're like, why? They're like, you saying you want to grow. I'm like, I don't have a lead generating problem. I'm like, I'm generating enough leads as it. They're like, well, how many leads are you generating? I'm like, I can prove to you that
It doesn't
through,
matter. It's enough.
I'm like, I can prove to you through the summertime, we were averaging 8 to 10 new leads a day. They're like, oh wow, that's a lot for a small company. I'm like, yes. I am generating enough leads. The problem is we need to get to it. And for me to get to it, I need to quit focusing on the website. So I need you guys to help build me the website that I've been trying to finish with all the local pages that we're supposed to build out, and everything's functional and you can buy online. That's my biggest thing because I'm a millennial. When I look for a home service company, I look for somebody that I can pretty much figure out the price online and book online.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to you. If I can text you, fine. If I can fill out a form and schedule an appointment, that's what I'm doing. I don't care if I'm paying more money to come book with you because it's the convenience factor.
Yeah, it is. Convenience is going to trump everything. Speed and convenience is going to trump it for the same reasons that we're talking about. I don't have the time to fix everything in my house. I can't get a contractor.
Nobody in the pest control industry is willing to let people book online.
Yeah.
Especially in our market. I don't know.
We tried it 2 different times. We did it with lobster. It just wasn't the conversion rate is really low. I think it was lower than I thought it would be on that principle.
I know it's going to be a pretty low conversion rate because now you become a price company, and I'm not necessarily, we're not the highest. We're up there on price, but we're definitely not the lowest. So I know when you're comparing just on pricing, we go back and forth on if we're going to.
Yeah, right now we're at that point where we can be about 95% of market pricing, where we're competing for price, because we got to scale, and the only way you can scale is on price. You can't scale on high price.
Well, yeah, so I've lowered my prices a lot since I first started, just to compete with pricing a little.
Yeah, we just did a number. I just ran the numbers. Let me see here. I'll show you what I did. I'm not going to show the numbers on the screen, but I'll tell you what I did, because this was, I had one of my people call 60. Where's my GHP analysis? I got an analysis sheet that's like 37 sheets deep on analysis on everything. And let me get it out of my way. I'll show you what I did. So what we did is we took competitive pricing. I called 60 companies. Out of the 60 companies, we got 20 comp pricing. We did 2 different comp pricings. All right. So the average price in the market right now, initial service, $146.
Okay.
So we had 2 outliers. The 2 companies, one, the initial service was 70, 75, and 100, and 109. Then the rest were 125 to 150, 160, and then we had one outlier at $250 on the high end. We averaged it out at 146. If you take the median price, is 150. Yeah. So what we said is, can I do 149 and still be okay, because we're a super premium brand that we're trying to, $2-3 isn't going to make a difference, but we used to be at 350.
Yeah.
And then the average price in the market on a monthly service, the average price was about 73 and 75 on the median, $69 on the bi-monthly, and $65 on the median price.
Yeah, see, that's even lower than where we're at.
And that's where the market's at.
Well, that's where our market's at too. But we're still on the higher end. So we are bi-monthly.
Yeah. But I've got 13 companies within 13 miles of me.
Yeah.
I mean, so right now, so if I wanted to be super aggressive on the initial service, if I wanted to grow and I can finance the growth, because you got to figure out where the ROI is going to be, how far down the line. If I went and I said I can go $49 initial, and 49 bucks a month, which will give me a higher price than the 65 average over time. I'll make more money over time than they are, but I'll have to finance it for 6-7 months.
Yeah.
Half the contract would have to be financed for me to make money. But and I understand that once I go that route, I'm going to probably experience a 30% cancellation rate. As soon as the problem's solved, they're going to want to cancel. That's the reality. You got to stomach it. And why a lot of people can't do it is because they can't. So I can still do 138 initial, be 95% of pricing of market, and take everybody on and still finance it that way. So either way, it's either fast growth, slow growth, and what's in between. Everything else is in between.
And that's kind of where we are. We're trying to find the in between. So I'm about to change my prices. We're going to kind of go like the door knocker model, where there is no initial fee per se, but it's a little bit higher because we've already been higher on the regular services. And
that's what I've done too, is lower my initial, take the barrier from getting on out of the way, which is the initial service, and then just charge a little bit more on the month.
What I'm learning is too, like, so my target market, everybody says your target market should be like the older crowd, like 35 to like 55. For me, my target market is like 25 to 35, maybe 40. The younger people, the younger couples with a couple kids.
See, that's odd because normally they're not buying houses at that age yet, but it seems like you have a market for it.
We do have quite a bit of younger couples that are buying houses. And it's also, I've also seen studies where the first time home buyers, or the age is becoming younger and younger to where it is about that 25-ish.
Interesting. Yeah, here in Miami, they couldn't afford to do that even if they live with mom and dad for 20 years. Well, what's the average price of your home over there?
Average price of the home right now, it's gone up, but I think it's about 175 to 200,000.
Oh my God, no wonder why. Yeah, Miami.
That's going to be a small. So like my house, I bought my house when I was 25, and I bought it for 140. Right now, the house is valued at 250. And I live in a 1,700 square foot house.
So let's say 175K. So that if they're bringing in together, Jesus, you need what, like average household income of about 50,000 or less.
Yeah, and that's about where we're targeting like the middle class young couple that don't want to really take care of their pets because they have other stuff that they're time over money. And so that's kind of where we are. So again, it comes down to convenience. We text. It's an outside only service. They only need us. They only need to be home when they have an issue, which should be hardly ever. And I want the setup to become easy. So if they do need to set up a service inside, they could do it on their customer portal. And so that's where we're trying to do it at, to where we can set guidelines with these timeframes are only available if it's within 5 miles of a previous service, or that sort of thing. So we're not driving all over God's green creation.
Right. Yeah, because the drought density is more important than the price.
Yeah, but we're still able to. So that's where we're doing no initial fees. It's kind of a little deceptive. But like our prices, our regular service is going to be more. To where it's kind of the initial fee is wrapped into the regular service price, and that's what you pay. And from my own experience, and then talking to other people, it's easier to budget if they know what is it going to be every month. So
every month, yeah, that's what we've done. Yeah,
today and then in the future versus. Yeah. It's hard to come up with $300 for initial. Because that's what the push. A lot of people that say it's too expensive aren't pushing back at the $100 regular service, like, or $50 a month that they got to pay. Not pushing back on that. Yeah. They're pushing back on, that $200 we need to come up with today is a little bit much. And so, but we're going to see if they can do like a $75 or $100 a month, like it's consistent. you don't have to come up with $200. It's just $100 we need today. And then that's what you need to come up with every year or every month. So we'll see if that's something that's going to be.
You try it
Yeah,
because you don't know until you try it.
yeah, we're going to try and see if it works. And because I have so the problem that I'm trying to solve is I want to be able to, and a lot of people ask to finance. And so I've learned is people willing to finance if they pay a little bit more monthly, they can't pay that
Of course.
and pay up front.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to make it to where I can finance like a mouse job and finance the stations that we need to put in without killing me. And so like I can take a hit here and there if somebody doesn't pay, but the majority's got to pay, obviously. But
Yeah.
where can I?
We're currently looking at. I'll tell you right now. I just had it up on my screen. We're looking at a finance company right now because we got some equipment we want to sell to clients. A mosquito system, and the finance. We don't want to have to finance it, but we can get. I'm trying to remember now who it was. A firm.
Okay.
So if you got an online store,
yeah,
you can sign up with a firm. They want people with online stores. So
Okay.
you have online ordering, you can get a firm. A firm will do like 12 months, like 6-12 months of zero interest financing.
Yeah.
So you can get, wherever now we're talking about, financing $1,000 system.
Yeah.
And even people with money are balking. I mean, we're talking about
Is that the Thermacell mosquito thing?
We're doing that too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've
So
been looking at that. That's a
yeah.
pill swallow.
But let me tell you something. If you can learn to show the value, because what I did here with my girl is she bought, no, let's buy, I'm gonna install one at the house now because I'm redoing the backyard, so I don't want to install them until I do that, but I'm gonna get ready to do it. If you buy it online for a 3 repeller system is $7.99. Okay. It's going to cost you a little bit less than that for yourself if you're an authorized installer.
Yeah.
And what I've done is you still got to install it yourself if you order it. So what I do is, all right, we're gonna do it for less than what you can buy it on the site if you buy it from me, free installation, and then so you're gonna pay less than online, and we're gonna get a firm to finance it same way they are to finance the payment, because I don't want to get into financing a $700 order.
Yeah.
We just can't eat it right now.
Yeah, and that's where we kind of use a firm, but it's a matter of like taking the extra step.
And depends how good their credit is too, because if they got no credit or crappy credit, they might say no.
Yeah, so we walk the people through on how to get like a loan through a firm.
Yeah.
And they can give us a virtual one-time card. And then they can finance it that way.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. So on a lot of these big tech, or even if somebody would have to do, because I don't think they want to do it for services, do they? They only do it for product.
Yeah, they really don't want to do it for services because I tried talking to them and they quite really weren't interested. But so that's why I'm kind of looking at it's per se a financing thing. So when I first started, I financed a couple people on bed bug jobs. And I didn't get burned. There was 3 people that we did it for. And we wrapped it up in a regular service that they paid more monthly. And 2 of them one of them paid up for the whole year and then did 1 month and then canceled. And another one did like almost 2 years and then canceled. But I have one that's still with me. And it's 2 years and they're still paying it. So I wasn't burned. So I kind of did like a small trial on it. I know there will be times I will get burned, and I've done it on a wildlife job too. So I've done it 4 or 5 times, and the people that we've done it for, that they've been appreciative and they've paid.
Yeah, I mean, you're in a market. I would not take that risk in a major market like Miami, where 50% rental. I mean, think about this. Half of our market is rental. Half of the houses that are available are rented. Huge market for Airbnb, huge. So it's very tough when you have people who are in a market who getting them into a contract when they realize they're not going to be there past a year,
Yeah.
it's a very big risk. So again, these are the things that keep us up at night, trying to figure out how do we make the deals happen. But reality is that it takes money to finance the deals. I mean, somebody's got to finance it. You finance it, you take the risk, somebody else finances it. It doesn't matter, somebody's got to finance the growth. And it's usually there's not enough profit from people's pricing, which is the biggest mistake they make. Like I said, I'm like, all my competition is at $65 to $75. On a monthly, we start at 79.
Yeah, that's where we
On a
are.
bi-monthly, we're at $99.
Mm-hmm.
89 to 99, depending on the house. But usually a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, we're going to be at 89. We have a lot more profit.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, that's the same way we are. The average quarterly service price here, because quarterly is king, even though we do bi-monthly, but the average quarterly rate is anywhere from $75 to $85. Some people are lower, some people are higher. Like the ones that are higher are generally door-to-door companies that are doing no initials. But the most people are around 75. Some people are at 99 or $100 a quarter. Versus if we did quarterly, we'd be at 150, 225 a quarter, depending on if you had rodents in it or just GPC.
Right.
And we're bi-monthly, so we start at $100 every other month.
Right.
So we're higher, and we're getting people that say, "Oh, you can't get it." I'm like, you probably can. You're just not asking for it.
You can get it because we get it all the time. But what I try to tell people, I said, usually I'll ask, okay, how many pest control companies have you had? Because she asked for a quarterly service. Usually it's her. How many companies have you had already? Mm-hmm. And it's usually, well, we've had 2 or 3. They not rattle off the names. We're not happy with anyone. Says, let me ask you a question. Do you think it's because this is what you're asking for that you're being sold what you're asking for, or are you being sold what you need? I said, in Miami, with the amount of sunshine we have, our calcareous soil, which has a high pH, the amount of rain we get, there isn't a single pesticide that's going to last more than 30 days. You got 0 lot homes, one on top of each other. There's no like acre between them. Yeah. Do you think you're going to be able to get control very long? I said, the reason you're switching companies is you're trying to get the control, but you still want a quarterly service. I said, it can't be done. You got to go to monthly or bi-monthly. Huh?
It's not entomologically sound.
It's not, because what people don't understand is South Florida, even people from North Florida and Central Florida that I have this conversation with, I said, you got to understand, you actually in North Florida have overwintering pests. Mm-hmm. We don't. We're the only subtropical region in the entire United States. From Lake Okeechobee down, it's subtropical. We've got tropical tree forest here. Mm-hmm. The only one in the country. I said, it's totally different. I said, you move from, I understand you moved from Northern Florida. I understand you moved from Kentucky. I understand you moved from New York. I said, you're in South Florida. You're going to be continuously unhappy. I'm trying to sell you a service that gives you what you want. But you're not going to get what you want, continuing jumping from company to company, asking for the same thing, thinking that that if we use something stronger, it's going to keep the pest away longer. It doesn't happen. It's about the follow-up and the follow-up to that care, that the difference in ours. 96% of our customers never experience an indoor pest problem.
Yeah, that's where,
because we do it this way.
Yeah, and that's what I explained to my customers is you can almost have a like see pest down to almost nothing.
Yeah, we're never going to get to 1% in Miami. People telling me I 1% callback. Says you're not tracking your KPIs right, because there's no way. I've tracked my KPIs for the last 15 years.
Yeah, it might be kind of on how you track callbacks. So like we can our callbacks has gone up. So I think we're like at 3 to 6% callback rate this year.
Yeah, we're at 4.3. We were higher, but I had to get rid of one of the techs that was having the problem, and that was the reason. I said something is not right. Your KPIs are going up. You're missing something, or you're not doing it. Find out. He was not treating correctly.
We've kind of like our quality's kind of gone down a little bit. just because we're trying to keep up with demand.
It's going to happen when you grow.
Yeah, we're learning that what I'm learning is 80% of pest control is going to be your basic stuff. You can take care of like a monkey could do it almost.
Yeah.
And the 20%, there's nothing wrong that's saying that we can do it this way, like the other 80% of the companies do it. But then there's nothing saying that just because we do it this way doesn't mean when that 20% has a problem that I now can't come in and be that master tech.
And that's what I do too. But most of the time, my guys,
and then we go back out, we go back on.
Right now, those problem calls, those problem clients that are really troublesome, it's about 1% realistically.
Yeah,
but most of the time it's construction issues. You know, we took on accounts that we shouldn't have. So my techs are instructed, hey, if this looks like you're going to have a nightmare in your hands, I want the pictures. I want you to call me, text me. We'll turn that contract down because I don't want for the revenue, it isn't going to worth when we're still this small to get our KPIs that high on our callbacks. So I'm trying to keep it under 3%, but realistically it's hitting the 4%, especially in the summer. Now in the winter, we go down to below 1%. Yeah. That's a given. But even our lawns, we don't have because we have automatic follow-ups.
Yeah.
So I don't track my KPIs on lawn the way I track it on GHP, because if the tech shows up to the lawn and it has a problem and it has a disease problem, he's automatically going to follow up with that client in 2 weeks.
And that's what we do with pest control. So
it doesn't count against him.
Yeah.
Because we want is the customer care, that the customer never calls us and says, hey, you guys were here and this problem is getting worse. So what we do is if he calls for a callback for a difficult ant problem, he automatically has to follow up.
Yeah, that's what we do with GPC too.
Yeah, so that's what happens with it.
We use the IQ trays for the rodents.
Mm-hmm.
And, if we go back and the bait completely empty, we'll look at the data and see, oh, well, all the bait was gone in a month. Well, I'm not waiting 2 months.
We'll have some of those stations that we put out 3 stations fully loaded.
Yep.
And I say, go back in a week and see which stations are getting eaten.
Yep.
And sometimes once all the stations are wiped out, and I said, you see, we would have spent 30 days with those stations wiped out because we didn't go back. And I said, that's the difference. That's going to be the difference between us when we tell the client, says, look, with every other company, they're going to do an initial and you've got a warranty. And if you still have a problem, what do we know about German roaches? I said, 30 days, eggs are going to hatch. And another 30 days from that, they're going to be already breeding because they can already be mature to breed.
And we got winters here somewhat. So what happens is in the wintertime, German roach populations tend to spike because people got the heat on. So it's like Miami inside the house because
it's all the time. So I tell people, I said, look, if you want a one-time service with a 60-day warranty, great. But I know that in 60 days, if I don't go back in 60 days, you'll be back to square one. I said, that's brilliant marketing. Unfortunately, it doesn't solve your problem. And I tell people all the time. And okay, it makes sense. Yeah, that's why you're charging me more. And we can show the value through the sales process. But if I wanted to go to,
when people ask why we're more expensive, everybody wants to say, oh, we're better. We'll take more care. Like that's not quantitative. That's not quantitative.
Right.
What is quantitary is while we don't have a warranty per se on our services, because I tell people we are dealing with living organisms, creatures and pests and insects and animals that you can't have a black sheep with.
Right.
What we are going to do is we're not going to wait for you to call back. These companies that say they'll warrant the one-time service for 30 days. They're going to come out, do the one-time service, and then hope that you don't call them. They're not going to call them.
And that's what we sell against constantly. And, hey, I get it. If you're broke and you got no money, because the problem is by the time they call us here with rentals and slumlords, I mean, understand that we have a huge apartment market. It's not like, I lived in the Midwest. Finding apartments isn't easy. Here, apartments is all they're building now. So what happens with a lot of these, I've got multi-million-dollar apartments with German roach issues that are huge.
Yeah.
You're not going to solve it by not our secret sauce. If you want to say it's a secret sauce, is the follow-up. It's the
And that's our
inspection.
secret
It's
sauce
us
too.
being there in 30 days, knowing that how that pest multiplies. I said, if you just give me 10 roach eggs, casings, I call them eggs. I know people are going to crucify me, but I don't talk to clients in entomological terms because they don't understand it. They understand an egg capsule. It's an egg.
Yeah,
You're
it's an
going to
egg.
get 30 something of those to hatch. So if you've got 10 of them, that's 300 roaches in 30 days. You give it
Yeah.
another 30 days, they're mature enough to breed.
Yep.
So now you've got a problem. If I wait 60 days and you want a quarterly service, and one time with a quarterly service, we will never get rid of that problem.
Yep.
And that's what you've been buying. And that's why I'm the third company you've called, and why it is that you're not getting that, but I have to sell it.
And that's why I spend
I
more
can't
time with
quote it.
people.
I got to sell it.
And that's why I spend more time with people on the phone than probably other companies, is because you're right. By the time they get to me, they've already tried 2 or 3 other companies. And it's like, okay, well, we can get you the results, but we can't do it the same way every other company's been doing it. Because if we keep doing what we've been doing, we're going to get the same results. And that's the definition of stupidity.
Insanity. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, the reason why we're doing it, every other month versus quarterly, or why on a German roach thing we want to sell you on a monthly service and not a quarterly service, is because this is what makes the most sense entomologically.
Right.
I'm like, if we do this, 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 and this, and this is the type of results that we're going to get you, and this is what's going to be closer to what you're expecting.
Right.
We can't get what you're expecting with what the service type that everybody else is offering. And what it comes down to is, by the time we finish explaining all this, they're like, we can see why you're more expensive.
Yeah. And that's how we do it. But no,
of what you say you're going to do, you've already done more than what the other company's done.
And the reality is, every independent guy out there that doesn't have a big brand, what they got to understand at the end of the day is you're competing for that cancellation rate, that high cancellation rate. We don't have the brand to go after the big numbers. Yep. We're taking that 20-30% cancellation rate in the market, and that's what's feeding us. But again, if the customer insists on getting more of the same, they will continue to fail. And that's when I explain, look, this is why you're failing. This is why we're going to be more, and you've already tried 3 companies. Again, we're fighting for that. The problem is I see the pricing that these guys are doing. And I said, if you're fighting for that 20% of all these companies, all these are independent that I priced. I didn't price like 2 maybe large brands there.
Oh yeah, it's horrible. When I talked, because I am such a networker, I've talked to many other smaller companies, and even the company I came from, the pricing is absurd.
Yeah. So why are you doing it? If you're selling, why are you trying to compete? If I wanted to grow, look, I come from that cutthroat corporate environment.
Yeah.
I used to sell contracts just for the fact that I didn't want my competition to have it. Yeah. And for no other reason. We didn't make money on it. It didn't matter. If they didn't have if my competition didn't have it, that's how we won.
Yeah. And that's, if a company can afford that, that's terrific. But
again, at the end of the day, if I'm looking to sell my company and get out quick, then that's what I would do. So like I said, I would probably sell it somewhere between 116 and 130. If you sign a 2-year deal, if you're a homeowner and you sign a 2-year deal right now, 0 initial, 49 a month, bi-monthly service.
Yep.
But that's 50% of the market. The other 50% is rental. Yep. I can't do it with a rental. It's not going to happen. So I have to okay, what can I do to get the money? All right, so we'll do 149. I'll be $3 above. We'll do an initial, but we charge for every follow-up.
Yeah, that's the Chopin model. But we were to help come back some of the rental issues that we're having, because a lot more people are starting to rent.
Yeah. It's right now across the country, there's only 2 states, I think, that it's cheaper to buy than it is to rent. Right now, it's cheaper to rent anywhere.
Yeah.
In the country.
So what we're doing is we let it be transferable without an initial fee. So if you move, we'll move your service with you if you're in our service area.
The problem is, if I did that with a rental, chances are, and especially an apartment, which we do a ton of, 30% of our business, apartment business.
Yeah.
If I do that, I'd be starting a German roach service every single time we moved.
Yeah.
I just had a
Well,
lady says I moved from one and I moved here and I thought they didn't have roaches. Turns out they have roaches. The reason I moved.
yeah.
And
Well,
so
luckily, most of the apartment complexes have their own pest control company. So if they're an apartment, we're really not going to get them. Our rental is like
oh no,
housing.
no. We do independent single owner and condos. We have a lot of condos too where because of condo laws, they can't go into the units.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we get a lot, but I get a lot of these apartment units that are they have a guy, but the guy shows up, sprays to
He's
$1. He sprays the kitchen and he sprays the bathroom and he's gone. And then if he sees German roaches, he puts a little bit of gel on the door hinges. I mean, I literally have to scrape out, like earwax,
yeah.
out of door hinges because everybody's
Like,
putting them on the door hinges.
yeah.
But that's what we get. So understand that every market is going to be different. You look at you. I mean, I can't buy a home right now, a starter home in the worst neighborhood that you're probably going to get shot for less than 500,000.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean,
An apartment is going to cost you almost 300,000 to buy a condo here.
Yeah.
A condo. And depending on what your fees are, it's going to be anywhere between like $500 to $2,000 a month in maintenance fees.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nuts. It's like so when what you can afford to do one place,
You can't
what's
be
so like I got guys who are calling me from they're in Orange County, California. So that's a brutal market.
Yeah.
People calling me about SEO, like how much would it cost to do SEO in that market? I said, in your market, I could probably do SEO for, 900 to 1,500 a month. In your market, 3 to 4,000. I couldn't get you ranked for 2 years.
Yeah.
Unless I did some black hat shady crap, because it's just no way. It's just like right now I'm battling my GMB. I was doing GMB this morning before you called. I got up at 6 a.m. and I was scheduling all my GMB posts for the week.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing a whole different strategy on my GMB post for the week, automating. So I got it automated where it'll post every single day. Yeah. Oh my God, it posts every single day. It's like, yeah, my competition's posting every 4 days. I got to post 7 days a week if I'm going to compete.
The Grant Cardone theory, 10x it.
You have to. If I'm in a super hyper competitive market, and what I have to do to rank is like I got Eric building out 50 pages in one county. How much would that cost you through Lobster Marketing? What they charge $150 a page?
Something like that. Something crazy. It'd be stupid.
50 pages to compete in this market times 150 is $7,500 just to build out 50 pages.
Well, it'd probably be 14,000 then, because I think it's 200-ish.
Yeah.
For additional page now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
On top of that, 2 blog posts a week minimum.
Yeah.
1 press release a week.
Yeah.
5 videos a week. 5 GMB posting across 7 social media channels.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to build my own in-house agent. I can't get anybody to do this for less than 15 grand a month here in Miami to do everything we do to compete.
Well, luckily, I mean, you're in a super uber competitive market.
Uber, yeah, and
we're competitive. I mean, but the difference is, I think, well, I don't know if it's a difference. So there is a ton of pest control companies here in Kentucky, but I'd say 99% of them are small mom and pop companies.
How many you have in your county?
I don't know the exact number, but if I was to say, easily 200 to 300 ish.
Yeah. We're at 360. We got 1,700 technicians in Miami-Dade.
Yeah.
Now that just tells you something about the market, that most people will rather not buy pest control because we got 2.81 million people for 1,700 techs.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of people coming from, so we're having the same issue before Texas had their issue of a lot of liberals moving out of their liberal states and moving into other places.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a ton of people that come from California, East Coast, New York, and move into Kentucky, either one because it's cost of living is a lot cheaper, and then with the remote stuff, people are moving back home, or people are moving here because more things are moving into Kentucky, like Amazon's built out more, UPS as headquarters here. Texas Roadhouse is headquartered here. So more businesses are coming into Kentucky. So more people coming from out of state moving here. And where they're coming from, they're used to paying for pest control. So they're looking for pest control here.
Right.
We're like on the list, top 10 list of things to do when they buy or rent a house, find pest control.
Right.
So that benefits us. But with that, what benefits me is, so when I'm competing on the SEO, I'm not really looking at the smaller companies, even though a lot of smaller companies are still a little bit higher than me. When I'm looking at competing for SEO, I'm looking at competing with the top 3 companies, Black Diamond, OPC, and Bright.
Right.
Because the other mom and pop companies are not doing SEO.
Right.
So
yeah, you're competing against whatever's out there at that moment.
They're ranking against me because they've been in business longer than me. Mm-hmm. They're not ranking higher than me because they're doing anything crazy. You look on their website was built in the 90s, or they try to build their own website.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be in the top 3 to make an impact. If you're not in the top 3, it's not going to happen. Where do you bury a body?
Yeah, second page of Google.
Second page of Google. Nobody looks there. So but now with the 3-pack and the algorithms coming in where Google is saying this is shrinking, and the only people that I see have a wide range are people that were there a long time, but they have 300, 400, 500 reviews.
Yeah.
And that matters.
So I'm doing the same thing kind of you're doing. Well, I used to. We post on GMB all the time, post on all social medias all the time, and wasn't really doing the blog, but that's where Lobster Marketing will help me. They'll be consistent.
Yeah. The reason I use a blog, I mean, the reason I use the blog now is I used to use the blog to get traffic. The reason I use the blog now is because it brings in the right amount of traffic. My traffic mix has totally changed in the last 10 months, where we changed the strategy and I completely changed my bricks. If you go to, you probably won't be able to see it, but if you go to, oh crap, I got like 17 apps, SEM Rush, where you do the analysis, you'll see I went from being more of an informational site to being more of a commercial site. So we're now like 60-30, where we used to be like 80 plus.
When I first did the website, we were super informational. And then second website, we're still informational, but not all my information has been transferred over to the second website now. So that's where I'm hoping.
But the thing is with the new website, again, I had a huge, I mean, I was up there in my 21 as a that's a Moz rank, but it does matter. Where we had a domain authority of 21.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a
Yeah, so with me that was really tough because we did have domain authority. I mean, I'm right up there with the bigger companies in domain authority. So building out a new site didn't make, so we have to rebuild the same site without having to mess with the content. Since I do all the SEO and I know where all my links are, then I know where everything was. So basically the blog is basically supporting all the local pages. And then the blog is also supporting like a lot of the press releases we're doing for ranking, because it does matter for ranking. You got to do, I mean, so think about it. When you got to do one weekly press release, build at least a minimum of 2 pages of blog pages. Plus we're building out about 5 pages a week, internal pages. And then we're doing about 4 to 5 YouTube videos, shorts a week across. We're creating, we're doing TikTok, we're doing Pinterest, Instagram, we're on all of them. You had to create a syndicated network also, which we don't disclose, with about 15 other blog pages separate to that. When you look at the directories listings, 120 directory listings that we're on, plus another 300 that are hidden. I mean, it's a full-time agency job. There's no way I can hire like where you're at. I mean, you're competing against, like I said, and on GMB, all we can do is compete right now for about, in some keywords, like my strong keywords, yeah, I rank out 15 miles on that. But on the competitive keywords that everybody's ranking, that Orkin, Truly, Terminex, the top 10 brands, 2.5 miles is all you're going to rank for those top keywords. So I was tracking at one point, I was tracking 961 keywords that we were ranking. I just lost you. Where did it go? Did I lose you? There you are. No, I'm trying to find where the heck you went. Oh, there it goes. 961 that we were ranking for that actually brought in money, that people, these are all buying signal keywords.
Yeah.
It's a lot of little things you need to do. So again, burnout is very easy to have. Disillusion is very easy to have when you're doing the things that everybody tells you to do and they're not working for you. And you're like, at one point, what I tell people is find one thing you can really focus on.
Yeah.
If it's GNB, devote 15 minutes of your day every day to GNB.
Yeah.
Devote every single day to getting reviews.
I get that laser focus.
And get every single day getting referrals.
Yeah.
Those are what you actually can do. And if you do those things, people say like, I get it. People on the site going, oh, I'm 100%, referral based. I said, that's great if you're not scaling.
Yeah.
If you're a solo operator, you don't need but maybe 5-6 referrals a month.
Yeah.
The moment you need to hire a guy, that is never going to cut it.
Yeah, the referrals is great.
You need 8. I mean, I get about 15 leads a day right now off of my SEO. I have a 50% return on investment equal to Google AdWords.
Yeah.
Again, but I have to do all this work. I have to hire a guy that costs me $3,000 a month internally.
Yeah. Part of the burnout or the fatigue, I guess, that sets in is for me, I think it's just one, wearing myself out trying to do all these things. So I think that's where reading the who, not how has been good for me, and that's what we're trying to do now. So that's why I'm hiring out the website and all this other stuff I'm working on doing now to relieve myself.
Right.
But I think where the fatigue really makes it a little bit more difficult is even though I own a business, I enjoy having my own business and not working for somebody else.
Right.
It's become less fun. And I think that's where I've been struggling the last couple months is it's become a chore, or it's become a task. It's become a job.
Let me ask you this. I asked you to take that survey from the 6 Genius.
Yeah.
Okay.
Haven't yet. I'm going to. I'll do it today.
So the principle behind it is this guy focuses on building teams. Okay. Yeah. So but in our case, we look at ourselves, and then you can give it. I would give it to each one of your team members.
Yep.
The reason is it measures you on 6 God-given talents.
Yep.
Okay. So my strong one is that I am a dreamer.
Yep.
And an innovator.
Yep.
I'm an implementer and a galvanizer. Second. Now I am terrible at executing on minor points. Like the devil is in the details. I can point out the details. I'm terrible at executing on them personally.
Yeah.
Eric, on the other hand, he's great at executing. He does have a dreamer because he's a musician, but he's not a big galvanizer. So what I do is we blend perfectly because I can come up with the strategy. I can come up with the plan. I can implement the plan. Like right now, I'm implementing the GMB. Why? Because I'm trying to get this system perfect for him, because I can't hand it off to him and let him figure it out. Yeah. I got to hand it off to him. Hey, this is how we're going to do it. He's perfect at just grinding away at that and knocking it out. So the way the 6 Genius works is you got to find out what really motivates you and energizes you again.
Yeah.
The problem is I'm suspicious, and I want you to post it.
Yeah.
And do a video on it after you do it. But what I'm suspecting is that you're in that dreamer innovator. You like doing networking. You're a galvanizer. You like bringing people together, but it exhausts you to death to be constantly working on all the little details.
Yeah, it does. So, looking at 6 types, I've been meaning to take a test since January. That tells you I'm not tenacious at all. But I probably am either a wanderer or a discerner.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because,
And tenacity is what Eric is good at.
yeah,
I can do tenacity for short periods of time, 6 months, a year. I can't do it in perpetuity as a normal function. So understand when we're measuring this, it isn't like, oh, I can't do it at all for any period of time. Like Eric is like, bro, I know you have so much tenacity. How do you make it 17 years in business? How do you do this? I said, understand that I have what do you call this? Perseverance.
yeah,
I'm like a dog with a bone. Once I decide I'm going to go after something, it's like the moment I achieve it, now what?
yeah,
That's what most people say. Well, you're always dissatisfied. I said, no, you don't understand. I'm content. I'm happy. I'm never complacent. And you really have to make a distinction so that you can put yourself in the right mind frame and don't allow other people to marginalize you and put you in a box that isn't yours.
yeah,
Because people will tend to say, well, you're just never happy. I said, no, understand that you're happy making $15 an hour, grinding away at a machine, drilling a hole for 8 hours a day, going home, drinking a beer, and that's your life.
yeah,
That doesn't motivate me. That actually will depress me to death, where I'd rather commit suicide than do that.
yeah, yeah. We rather not work 40 hours. We'd rather work 80 hours and do it at our own pace.
But the thing is with the 80 hours for me is that everything I'm doing is because I am getting into it, because I'm a wanderer, and because so look, let me throw you on the other. That's the other part of that double-edged sword.
Yeah,
Because then there's never enough things to innovate and wonder about. It's endless.
yeah.
At one
And
point,
that's where,
I got to cut it off.
yeah, and that's where I guess I am happy, and I guess I'm like you. I am happy, but I'm not content.
Right.
Like we get somewhere, and then it's automatically on to the next thing. We don't.
Right.
I have a bad habit of not enjoying the wins that we have. So we
You
won.
got to start practicing some mindfulness.
Now
I
we're on
mean,
the next.
yeah, practice mindfulness. Get into mindfulness training, because you do wake up in the morning and you are thankful. Learning to be present is very difficult for us when we're there on that date or whatever it is we're doing. We tend to wonder.
Yeah.
We're always wondering. I mean, when we're with our kids and we're doing something, we wish we were working. When we were working so many hours, we wish we were with our family.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to do that in some people's mind that doesn't have the entrepreneurial genes or whatever, because that's what's difficult for people around us to understand. What we have to do is bring it into that balance where it's a balancing act. There's never balance.
Yeah.
We're always doing a balancing act.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm at home, I'm trying to balance being at home. When I'm with my kids, I'm trying to balance being with my kids, not thinking. I've gotten better and really good at it, not thinking about, but sometimes my mind just goes because I'm working on the new concept for the academy, the
Mm-hmm.
things that I want to do, all of that. Believe it or not, it causes insomnia when I have too many dreams of things I want to accomplish. I get insomnia.
Yeah.
So I'll wake up at 2, 3 in the morning for no reason, and I immediately start having to work on it until I can get those thoughts out of my head. It's almost tormenting.
Yeah.
It's hard. And but I had to learn to say, okay, what can we do, Eric? What I had to let Eric be Eric is like my break. How much can he actually do? Because I can't implement it.
Yeah.
How much can he actually implement in the time he has without him working because he will work the 60-80 hour weeks too. And how do we balance that and constantly me measuring it and saying, okay, this is something that's on the back burner, but it isn't something I can do right now or even think about, but it's on my list. Like I set a goal this year, 5 goals.
Mm-hmm.
Get our termite license, get the academy up and running,
Yep.
get my A certification.
Mhm.
Okay. And let me see, I had 5 things. I put them on, I had put it on my, because I use collaboration. I use Asana for collaboration, but I have on top of this, I have all these little sticky notes on my thing of things that I must not
Yeah.
forget, because I forget to go into Asana. I forget to go into my calendar. I
Yeah.
forget so I got to have, like, what's the most important thing that I'm working on? And then these are my little Post-it notes. And then I'll pick one that I'm motivated to do that day. And those are the ones that get done because they're not urgent. In other words, phones got to get answered, emails got to get returned, texts have to done. These are things that I'm working on that as I get a chance, I start knocking them out. So, those were one of the 5 things. How many am I going to actually accomplish this year? Well, I'll probably accomplish 2 out of the 5. I have to learn to be okay with that,
Yeah. And
because if not, I will kill myself trying to accomplish it all and say, well, I can't enjoy the fact that the academy is finally going to go after 2 years. I mean, this has been the longest pre-sale in the history of pre-sales that I've been talking about doing the damn academy, when I should have had it done. But it's the amount of work that it takes. I couldn't take it on. I needed somebody to finalize. I can produce content all day long.
Yeah.
The actual putting together the course and then the quizzes and then all this, it's about 24 hours worth of work per class.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Eric is the one doing that. I can't do it. So, and I can't take it on. So now it's okay. I got my academy. We're going to get our license this year. If not, it's going to be January, because it depends on where I planned it. Since January, I didn't find a company to sign off for me until May.
Mm-hmm.
Everything takes twice as long and over budget that you ever want to plan. Nothing is ever going to go smooth. Murphy is a liar, and so is the devil. So, and sometimes I think Murphy and the devil are one person, because it's like, dang it, so again, being patient with yourself, being forgiving
Yeah.
with yourself, being present and being mindful, being thankful, like, thank God, we thank that we got this done. Thank that this morning we can get to do this. I mean, just practice mindfulness, because it will overwhelm us to think all the things we're failing at that we're not getting done, instead of the things we are accomplishing.
Yeah.
And then having that conversation with your wife, like, you just get home and like, hey, a praise report, hey, we actually got this done today. This has been going great. And because a lot of the times people who are not wired like us, her 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 emotions and her feeling good feeds off of you. If your energy is negative about everything you didn't accomplish, it creates an enormous amount of anxiety for her.
Yeah.
And those are the things that we have to learn to just, hey, when she comes home, it's more about, hey, how was your day? What happened? And, oh, this happened at work. And me trying to stay positive, because she says, you're a negative person. I said, I'm not a negative person. It's just, I see all the problems.
Yeah. Well, that's where she and I are somewhat similar. She comes home with all the negatives too. So
yeah. And I think we need to just maybe, like, one of the practices that I started practicing in mindfulness is, before you go to bed at night, make a list of the things you're thankful for.
Yeah.
And ignore the other ones. Because what happens is you go to sleep with all the things that didn't get done, didn't get accomplished, went wrong, instead of setting up your mind for success, which is going to bed at night saying, this went great today, this went great today, this went great today.
Yeah.
And it really does make a difference, because when you're in the thick of it, especially as you grow, things you will have, in other words, you will never be without the absence of problems and challenges and defeats. And it's just that they're different.
Yeah.
And they're at it's this problem here, remember back, when you were starting your company and you thought the hardest thing was getting an LLC getting a logo and getting a website and getting business cards. And if you accomplish that, oh my God, this is so amazing. I have a business, but you still haven't made any money. And that was like the hardest thing to overcome. Was creating your company and the logo and all of this stuff you had to do. And now you're like, crap, the hardest thing is how am I going to get that next tech? And so it's par for the course. It's just you're in a more difficult course. The more complex it gets, it just, there's levels of complexity. You learn to manage that when you get there. In other words, don't pick Pete Chopin's brain on what you do at $40 million when you're at 400,000, because it's not going to help you to try to think that far ahead.
Well, that's where I struggle. Is like I try to reverse engineer.
Reverse engineered for the next 100,000 or the next 500,000.
Well, I start at the very end.
You can't, because it is surmountable. It's kind of like trying to eat an elephant and you have no teeth. You know, you that's the biggest mistake. I got guys calling me all the time. You know, I want to do $2 million. I want to get to a $2 million company, and I need to create a chart of you know, all of my, you know, you sit there on a blackboard. Your organizational chart. And I said, listen, dumbass, where are you at? I'm at 180,000. I said, you're nowhere near looking that far. You're wasting
time. Organization is you.
You need to figure out what task can you delegate. Like if you can get, like, you know, simple, like sometimes hiring a college kid. I had one guy said, you know, I never thought about hiring a college kid part-time 2 days a week. I said, if you can just relieve yourself 2 days a week from having to do something, or 1 day a week. If you can relieve that pressure, can you go out and knock on doors 1 day a week? By hiring one person to come in, because you can make more money knocking on doors than you can messing around with that schedule. 1 day a week. Can you take, like, look, it's something simple, like hiring a cleaning lady for $150 a week, so that your wife doesn't have to come home and clean the house on Saturday. Maybe she can help you on Saturday and spend 6 hours cleaning the house. You can buy your wife for $150. It says, I'll make you a deal. You don't have to clean the house. I'll pay for the cleaning lady, but I need your help doing some paperwork or stuff or whatever. I mean, to me, it's never been worth cleaning my house. It takes 6 hours to clean this thing. And that's not even deep cleaning. That's just cleaning it.
No, that's the biggest argument.
$150 it cost me a week, when I can make that on the phone in 6 minutes.
No, I mean, I'd pay $150 for it. My wife's like, why am I going to pay $150 to have to? I'm like, because you're buying time back. And that's what I'm trying to get her to understand.
Because she's used to that 150. The way we think is, I can make $150 in an hour.
It's the same way with cooking. And it's a horrible mindset, because I'm like, so I'm either going to spend 3 to 4 hours creating a meal. On top of, I have to buy all the groceries and everything. I'm like, versus I spend $40, get food delivered, it's made and brought in within 30 minutes to an hour.
See, like me, I enjoy cooking so much. I do the cooking at home. I do the cooking, but I can make a meal for 5 people in 30 minutes. You know, I have a grill that I use every day. And so to me, going out is expensive, because it's about, I mean, I spend about 60-40. 60% of the time I cook at home, 40% of the money we go out. Especially when you got kids, you know, you're not going to spend $40. I mean, I can spend $50 on a cheap meal, and it's $50 for 4 people. So, like, you know, Fridays we do pizza. I'm not going to cook. We're exhausted by the end of the week, whatever. Like, get the kids, hey, just get pizza for the kids every Friday, or tacos, whichever they like. So the idea is, can you delegate tasks little by little versus needing an entire person? Like I said, like, I don't clean the house. It's not worth it for me to spend 6 hours to save $150. I'd rather do this. I can do SEO and put more thing out that will generate in the next 90 days more money than the 6 hours I spent in the house. And that's basically, so it's, but I get it. If you're making 15 an hour and that's 10 hours worth of work, you're like, dang it. But what you do is you bring in the money and you say, I'm going to hire the cleaning lady.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done is like, I'm hiring a cleaning lady. I'll hire this. I'll hire that. I got a rule. If somebody can actually do it better than me and it costs less than $150 an hour, I'm hiring them.
Yeah.
When it's like, I'm not going to sit here and try to do an awning. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But find a guy to cut the tree. It took me 6 hours, but that was going to cost $1,500. It needed to be done between here and here, no exceptions. And then it needed to be hauled away within this time and no exception. I had less than 5 days to get the gutter guy in here and a tree guy and paint that thing outside. It was cheaper for me to do it, spend 4 days in my house than spending 4 days in endless aggravation trying to find 3 contractors. I wasn't going to install a gutter myself. I hired a guy.
Yep.
That was 2 out of 3. That's not bad.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to get 3 out of 3. What the problem, that mentality is, it's like when kids want to get married, this is the kind of person I'm looking for.
You're looking for the perfect person.
And if you can get 80, can you be satisfied with 80%? It just has to be the right 80%.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you be happy with 80% if you get it done? If the answer is no, you got some work to do because you're not going to get it. It's kind of like the perfectionist. I try to teach my people, I says, I'd rather you be precise than perfect.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at.
You can work precision. You're never going to get to perfection. That's an illusion. We live in an imperfect world with imperfect people.
Yeah.
Perfection doesn't exist. Now, when you're building a plane, we're not dealing with perfection. We're dealing with degrees of precision.
Yeah.
That space shuttle needs to be more precise than my car.
Yeah.
It's just we're dealing with levels of precision, but in a perfectionist mentality, I'm more of an idealist, which is miserable because this is how I think the world should be. And when it isn't, I'm disappointed. I had to learn, I'm not going to get everything I want. I'm going to get, did I, it's like, no, but you're settling. I said, I'm not settling. This is realistic. You're wanting the 6-foot guy with the muscles, and you want him with a brain, and you want him to be also a great business person who has money. And on top of that, he needs to perform well in bed. I mean, you ain't going to get all of it, baby. You're going to end up with me. I can get you 4 out of 5. And then you want, and he needs to have all the time in the world. It needs to be romantic.
Yeah.
It's like, it isn't happening. It's not going to be, this is what most people want out of a business. I need to find a guy that can do all this. I need to find this person that can do all this. I need the company, and everything is going to look at how many troubles we had with pest routes over the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Software that's supposed to run and had tons of problems because they were selling the company because they were, and then switching is going to cost you $30,000, and it's a constant barrage of problems. The thing is, the more people you hire, the less of those problems you deal with, but your problems are going to be at a higher level. Yeah. Like when you need to borrow $3.5 million and you have a line of credit at the bank and the bank says, yeah, you owe us 1.5 million and we're calling the loan. Now you got to run around to every other bank in town and figure out who's going to buy that $1.5 million loan. Yeah. You're dealing with bigger problems. They're just different. But again, if you focus on how do I do it better today? How do I go from 200,000 to 500,000? Because the hump seems to be in a company about 5 technicians, where the problems start to get easier, but you got a different level of problems. And about, how do you get past that 500,000? Yeah. If you can get past that 500,000, so that says, I would pick everybody's brain. Like if you got 2 technicians, how do I get to 4? Yeah. Because the guy still remembers, the guy who has 4 still remembers what it was like to have 2. Yeah. He hasn't forgotten. Yeah. That's much easier for you to manage than how do you get to 40 technicians? Yeah. It's insurmountable. The brain ache that I get from just thinking about that, it's like, no, I don't want it. And so what I do is I've learned that let me find the next mentor that can show me how to get to 700,000.
Yeah.
Then the guy who's done 1 million, how do you get to 1 million? Because then after that is wash, rinse, repeat.
Mm-hmm.
You're only going to have, and it's just basically the complexity of scale. When you have 20 employees, 12 employees, you might need an HR person to handle all the legalities, because you're going to get sued pretty soon.
Yeah.
So again, how do you manage the stress? Stop trying to take on so much. At least what you're going to take on, you got enough on your plate. Stop trying to add stuff that you're not even there yet.
Yeah.
To handle, because that just overwhelms your brain. It doesn't. You're never at peace. I am never satisfied, but I've learned to be at peace.
Yeah. And that's where I that's my next progression, I guess. It's just
so add to your list. I'm looking at this lady right now that she's a therapist, and she brands herself as somebody I can really relate to, because she's about the tough love and getting past the BS. But she's a family therapist, she's a psychologist, and she also helps with mentoring and things. So I'm looking at hiring her to deal with a lot of the issues that I have to deal with at my level, and never discount the fact that you need that help.
Yeah.
I see a therapist that I have once a week, every 2 weeks. We meet, and has helped me a lot with anxiety, because I am always had anxiety. So I deal with anxiety. I just have to be honest of the things I deal with. I've always dealt with anxiety. I used to have plaques on the wall of Philippians 4. I mean, it's just chronic with me, the anxiety. I've never had depression. I can remember one time where I did, and it's about a week, and I sat myself out of it. But anxiety is a real issue for me. As this gets more complex, I got to learn to manage it, because I don't want to do a whole bunch of pot.
Yeah.
I don't do it, but I don't want to do it either. I don't like it. I'd rather do cigars. Some people have to do it. Like, I've got neighbors who are constantly doing it, and that's the only way they can cope. I don't want to do that. I'm more holistic.
Yeah.
So include a therapist, include someone that can help you with the struggles you're actually struggling, and fix those, versus you going out of your way to talk to all the people that are at this massive level. Like, I love Seth. I think Pest Daily is a wonderful program. However, a lot of people who've never had any sales experience, what I hear from them is they're overwhelmed by all of it. It's too much.
It's over. When I first started, it's super overwhelming. It's a ton of knowledge, and it's almost assuming that
about sales. A lot about sales and marketing, because it's geared towards, and I understand where he's going.
Yeah.
And so again I'm partnering up right now with a person who does business consulting and mentoring, and people dealing with mindsets. And I'm bringing her on as part of the team, because I don't plan to do all this myself. I'm associating with people that I've met over the last 10 years, 15 years, that I know are solid, because the people that work with them are solid, and where they're at, and their heart and their mind, and the audience we want to reach is really that one, the person that wants to grow, who's a solo operator, who's starting up, solo operator that's struggling to grow, because he doesn't have the background, he doesn't have the degree, he doesn't have the training, he never had the experience. He just went from a tech to a truck.
Yeah.
And that is 90+%. The percentage that will actually hire us to listen to us is, if I'm lucky, if we can get to 1%.
Yeah.
I'm going into this realistically, because they won't admit they have a problem. They don't know how to get help. They can't afford anything.
Well, they don't know what they don't know.
And they don't know what they don't know. Exactly. So my goal is, I guess I have an audience big enough through the podcast that people know what I'm about. They know they can reach out for help. They know it's not going to be, because some of these consultants want $600 to $1,200 a month. There's no way you can afford that when you're starting out. Can you afford $100 for 2 months or 2 weeks, and then you're going to have a lot of homework that you can do to fix these issues, because we're going to identify them really quick, but you're going to have a lot of homework. A lot of the homework that has to be done is right between your ears. The negative self-thought, the negative self-image, the negative mindset, and a lot of the phony baloney that goes on out there that you have to overcome. I think that's the major thing that people have to read. They can overcome that, and they just listen to sound business principles and say, let's get you from here to here to here to here in baby steps. Because the biggest problem we have with all these programs is they overwhelm people. I want to get to the 5 million, but I can't even get to 500,000.
Yeah, I mean, the worst enemy that anybody faces, I think, is yourself.
Yeah.
Person in the mirror. And so it's the biggest enemy I'm working on defeating right now at the moment. So
we got termite problem at a house.
Uh-oh.
My tech just sent me a picture of what, because it looks like there's like some casings, but that's definitely one of those is definitely a termite. Or
like money.
No, that's like a fly, man. That picture is so bad. I need to give courses on how to take pictures. Yeah, this one's, I think the customer probably sent it them or something. I'm going to get back to him now in a couple of minutes, because you're going to buy me lunch any minute now. I'm going to order something on Uber Eats and send you the bill. No, bro, but look, again, it's fun talking to you and dealing with a lot of this. I hope that the biggest takeaway is for you, slow down your mind so that you can really enjoy what you've accomplished, because you've accomplished a lot. Let me tell you something. For you to be at, what are you now? How much revenue in 2 years?
We're at 2 total, or just for this year?
For the year. I mean, what do you plan to make for this year total? What's your budget?
We're planning to be at 300,000 this year.
Okay, what you've accomplished, you've accomplished 80% more than anybody starting out in the industry. Because I talk to people all the time that won't post this, because I notice when I post stuff that there's only about a point something participation rate, and it's usually by the people who've achieved it. Anybody could do it. I've done it. It's easy. It's not that hard. And then I get the instant message, bro, I've been at it 3 years and I'm barely baking 150. I'm barely making. I mean, I got a guy who started 2 years ago. He can't get past 50,000.
Yeah.
You see, so 90% of what you listen to is total from the guy who's done it. A lot of it is hype, but you've accomplished more in 2 years than probably 80% of your contemporaries. That should be both rewarding and humbling.
Yeah.
So take it that way. Learn to relish the accomplishments, because they're very few. It's like, in the business world, you make one mistake to 100 attaboys, but in business you're making mistakes all the time, and it gets tough to swallow that sometimes.
Yeah,
it does. And so my biggest takeaway is, hey, look, just be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself, be forgiving, and own it when you screw it up, and then say, dang it, how do I keep this from happening again? How do I create a KPI for this? How do I create? And a lot of it, there's no fail safe for it. It's going to happen again.
Yep.
And that's it. And that's the way it is. It's just accepted that this will happen again. When you don't, you probably have a little bit more experience making hires because you've had to do a lot of it a little bit more, but you can't quit after the third guy screwed you over.
That's the biggest thing I think I see the differences in potentially me and other people is, I think some people are afraid to fail, or they've been burned, and then
it's a combination. The average entrepreneur, after he's failed once, he'll never try again.
Yeah. Versus me, I'm like, well, shoot, we'll keep making the same mistake again over and over again.
Look, this was my third business.
Yeah.
So the thing is that if you can make the mistake learn from it, and say, how do I do it better next time? Not perfect, better.
Yeah.
After hiring 15 employees in this business alone, mostly technicians over 17 years, you can't put a fail safe against that, because you don't know 90% of the time what they're hiding until they're on the job.
Until you hire
You can
them.
ask all the BS questions you want in the world, do all the assessments, and until they're actually working on payroll, being observed, you will not know. And even then, you will be duped.
Yeah.
And this idea that I can show you how to overcome that, it's total BS. It's, that guy gives me a bad gut feeling. Follow that gut feeling. Chances are, after you've paid $2,000 to recruit him, hire him, interviewed, gone through all the process, when he starts working, you figure out the first week you got to fire him, and now you got a hard decision to make, because the way you feel is, I failed because I spent $2,000. I feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem that I see with entrepreneurs, is the ability to overcome feeling like an idiot because you were taken advantage of. Guess what? That SEO guy selling SEO is a way better salesman than you are. You got duped. Cut your losses and move on. Get the next guy, cut the losses, move on. And you're going to find that you're going to have a lot of losses. You know, I was reading a meme yesterday, which is hysterical. I showed my girlfriend, who's not my fiance right now. So, you know, we got engaged 2 weeks ago.
That's
And
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, after 18 months, I figured, you know, if I want it, you know, should have put a ring on it, and then I didn't. So then you know, I can't take that loss. So
She's a
yeah,
keeper.
so,
She's
huh?
really good. She's a keeper.
Yeah,
So
she is. She's super smart, which makes me wonder why she's with me. You know, I also, why do you even love me? And she gives me a list of things that are important to her. And I said, okay, well, if that makes you happy, I guess I can keep doing that. You know, but it's the fact that you're going to get sold, you're going to get closed, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to go through it. It's going to cost you 10, 15, $20,000 in mistakes, and it's going to be 5 or 6 times before you get it right.
yeah.
And what happens with most people after the first time they got burned, I'm not hiring an SEO company. I'm not hiring an ad company. I'm not hiring an employee. I'm not hiring a phone service.
Well, I think a lot of times is the expectations aren't real.
They're not. Most of the
So
time, it's by what you've heard on a podcast, read in a book, read on a blog that is trying to sell you something. It isn't
so
the
that
real
so
thing.
when people talk to me about different things, like I'm using the Go High Level platform for tracking sales and stuff, and
Right.
I'm going into lobster marketing,
Right.
and you hear a lot of negative about like the lobster market. I've heard nothing but like negative, and which I don't know. I'm going into it anyways. I'm hard headed, but I think a lot of it when I push through a lot of different things
Mm-hmm.
is just the expectations.
Yeah,
Like
I've seen
that
some of,
talk of the head.
just to get, not give them a plug, but I use lobster marketing. It didn't work for me.
Yeah,
But again, look at the market I'm in.
yeah.
I'm in a super
So
hyper.
you're in a super
So what I found, because I'm doing analysis for a couple of other people that are using them,
yep.
and I said, honestly, when I look at the analysis for you, they're producing killer results.
Yeah.
The problem is you can't afford to keep paying the $700 a month, because the ROI, but I'm looking at the SEO analysis. Actually, it was really good, but they're in a non-competitive market. Within 5 miles of them, they only have 2 companies
Yeah.
battling it out. I got 13. So again, what are the expectations? You don't know enough to ask even the wrong question.
Yeah.
And that's where, so to your point, yeah, you're hiring them. It could work for you. The only way you're going to know is when you evaluate it. How much is it going to cost you to build a page for every market? It's about the same everywhere. It's $150 a page.
Yeah.
I just have to build 1,500 word pages. I can't get away with.
Yeah.
I got some pages I built out in order to compete. I had to make them like 2,800 words.
Yeah.
How are you going to pay $280 when the average, is about 10 cents per 100 words?
Yeah.
it's going to cost me $280 to build that page. Can you afford to do that? What is the ROI on that? It's usually out 90 days for us.
Yeah,
well,
that's
my stuff gets ranked right now, but I have domain authority.
17 years into it versus
exactly.
When I'm talking to people about like the content marketing, because that's helped me grow, or going into lobster marketing, like I don't expect a return on investment, or to start seeing a return on investment for at least 3 months. That's why I tell people, if you're going to do something, be sure you can afford it for 3 months. If you can afford it for at least 3 months, then you can kind of have a gauge on where it's going to go.
Yeah, I just did one for a buddy of mine who's in West Palm, and I actually sat on the call with his SEO company that he's looking at, because I don't do it. I don't want to do SEO. And I grilled that guy to the wall, and I got him to tell him the truth. And I said, he's charging you $2,500 a month. The expectation is you're not going to see a result for 2 years.
Yeah.
Can you afford it?
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. I mean, that's the reality. But when I do the analysis and I said, here's what he's going to do. He's doing a press release every week. He's doing GMB posting for you. He's going to build out, 1 page to 2 pages a week. How long is it going to take for him to build out? This is where my speed matters, where I rather do it in-house, because in 30 days, we built out 50 pages.
Yeah.
Handcrafted using AI, but they're tailored to us because we trained our AI machine, our GPT chat. That's the reality is, but my pages will rank right now. If I build up those pages for my niche keyword, 2 weeks tops. Right now, some of those pages are ranking. Yeah. But I got a 19 domain authority with a 17. It's a 10-year-old website that has been ranking for 10 years, who is the authority in that field, which is eco-friendly, natural, organic pest control. Mm-hmm. All we care about is the 1% that is looking for that. Because I got, between Dade and Broward, I got 5 million people. And so those are the expectations. When I'm talking this level versus your level, I'm creating 10x the content you are. Yeah. You can't have the same result. Now, could you have it in a market small because you have no competition? Yeah, well, that's the difference, I think. So what you're doing, you're doing 10x in a market that's already doing a lot. Versus they're also doing 10x. Yeah, well, yeah. But you can do 20x. Versus me, I just have to do 10x because right now the competition is not doing a whole bunch. Yeah. So I'm looking for pest or lobster marketing to create like a professional looking website to compete with the 3 other main brands that have that professional website that's local. Right. Yeah, what bells and whistles do you need on local. It? Yeah, people want local, but they don't realize that OPC is bought out by Rollins. Right. So they're still local, or Black Diamond is now national with different branches in different places, right. Even though it started out here. Right. But people don't understand that. People don't care about that. They just know, oh, this is the local team. Yeah. So while I'm still supposedly competing with the hundreds of other smaller 1 or 2 man companies, for me to stand out, I'm looking to try to compete with them. To your point, one of the things that you have to look at is we don't have to be twice as good. No. We only have to be marginally % better at what we do. In other words, everybody balances like, I'm so much better at doing pest control than all those guys. It doesn't matter. Yeah. You have to be 1% better at marketing, 1% better at sales. You have to just be marginally better than everybody else in your market in order to beat them out in that arena. If we're talking about PPC, that's a whole different arena. If we're talking about LSA, that's a whole different arena. If we're talking about YouTube, I mean, I don't know how much YouTube you're doing, but I'd be doing a crap load of it. Well, I've started doing more YouTube. Yeah, I'd be doing it and building out those playlists for every single local market that you want to target. In other words, every page that you have, on every city page you have that you're going to create,
Mhm.
you should have a playlist for that city page and linking back to that local page,
Yeah.
and then sending that out to TikTok and
Yeah.
doing, micro content from that. But you should be doing a ton of it, because believe it or not, more and more people are going to YouTube for local search
Yeah.
because they want to see what that company is saying. They don't want to read it. They just want to watch it, see it. They want to hear about it. And people are underestimating the power of YouTube when I figured it out 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And all of my leads, I would say that at least 50% of my L&O leads come from YouTube, not from pages.
Yeah.
So figure out what they're not
Also,
doing.
you know, that personal value is by creating those videos
Yeah.
or pick blogs or whatever to create that
In your
relationship.
groups, in your own groups that you created.
Yep.
I'm the only guy that has a demo video. Everybody is saying, don't use this, don't do that, vacuum. How do you teach a DIYer to vacuum from a text that you just posted? You should be
Yeah.
vacuuming to collapsing that population. Where does he vacuum?
Yeah.
Not understanding cracks and crevices and thigmotactic insects.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
have a demo video that works every single time. That is, you just follow it. It's super easy. I don't have to get into entomology to teach them how to do it, because the video is already entomologically based. The protocol is entomological.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I'm talking about that everybody misses it. Everybody criticizes me for it. But yet, every time you see somebody, oh my God, this is so amazing. Why doesn't I even got other members sharing my videos now with your members in your group that you own? It's just that, man. It's just figuring out three,
And
four,
that's
five,
why,
3, 4, 5 little things you can do
yeah.
with
And that,
success every single day without going so broad. Because we can try everything. Like people, I tried everything. We tried everything. I've tried a lot of things, but I know what I'm good at. Now we're getting good at ads, but I'm figuring out how to get $6 clicks
yeah.
versus $28 clicks.
Well, that's the other. So that's the thing. You know, everybody wants to compete with Google, and I tell people I have to play small ball or money ball. I
Yeah,
can't. There's always going to be somebody that's going to outspend me, no matter how
of
big.
course.
Somebody's going to spend more money than you, and that's where, you know, talking about finding, you know, one thing or whatever that you're good at and honing that and capitalizing on it. That's where the content marketing really helped for us. Is I don't know if I'm terrific at it, but at least I just do it. Is put out content for people,
Yeah,
and
figure out who the guys out there that have the big following and just knock it off.
and that's kind of what I've done.
That's
And
all you
now
have to do.
with the big three that we talked about,
Yeah.
uh, they have more followers than I do on their page, but I get more engagement than they do. So, and we're knocking it out of the park with that.
Yeah, I mean, I that's why I say just find two, three things that you can do exceptionally well, better than your competition is doing, because they're ignoring that area.
Yeah.
Most of your competitors, most of your little guys are ignoring YouTube, and if they're doing it wrong, and they're not doing it consistently. I would rather you pick 3 little things you can do consistently over, let's say, 9 months. 3 months isn't enough of a sample. Do it 9 months. See what starts happening. The problem is I put out 2 video. Everybody wants an instant ROI. I did a YouTube video and it doesn't produce ads. I don't have time for it, because you don't have time as a solo operator.
Yeah.
You don't have time and you don't have money. You're screwed.
Yeah.
So you got to make time. So figure out 2 to 3 things you can do that maybe you can put 15 to 30 minutes a day in. But I don't know anything about video editing. What does it matter? Load it up raw without any bumpers, without any music, without anything. Just load it right up to YouTube and don't edit it. Just make sure what you said isn't screwed up.
Yeah.
Oh, but I got to learn video editing. I got to learn this, and I got to learn. You don't need to learn anything. I mean, I'm just doing a trial right now for Canva on their new AI to generate images. I just finished generating 18 images this morning in 15 minutes for 15 blog posts I'm going to do on GMB every single day because I have Bright Local, and I basically load it up, and for an entire week, it's going to do it. So this will take me about 2 hours a week that I dedicate to my GMB posting. It's already done for the whole week in 2 hours a week. I'm outdoing my competition because they're posting every 4 days.
Yeah.
So figure out what can you do a local video of everything that you're doing in the field, every single stop. Take a picture of every single stop in front of every house with your truck, even if it's just your truck, even if it's the B&G on the ground. It doesn't matter. Why? Because it's geotagged in the areas you want route. People say, how do I get route density? It's so expensive. I said, no, you go around with your truck and every single stop within 5 miles of your house or where you are, take a picture of every single stop and then post it every single day and upload every of those pictures because they're already geotagged. There isn't anything you need to do to them. You don't mess with them. You just post them every single day. Every single job you do, I get a review. Every single job, get me a referral. Every single job, every single stop, put a door hanger in that 5 mile radius. Why? Because in a year's time, you'll have 100 accounts, but you got to wait a year. And you got to do it every single day for a year. But would you rather have 100 accounts within 5 miles of your home where you start, or would you rather drive all over God's creation for the next 2 years and then say, I don't understand why I'm not making any money after 2 years in business because I ran all over God's creation. I'm running 45 minutes that way for $159 initial and then running 45 minutes back. And I said, because of that syndrome, it isn't giving me results fast enough. I said, nothing will. You don't have money. You don't have time. Do 4 or 5 things like that every single day for the next year. You know what? It wasn't until I did this podcast for 2 years, 100 episodes in, before I had any traction, before I had any results. Nobody was following me. It wasn't until 2 years after I did SEO, 2 years of doing YouTube, that things blew up for me. 2 years of doing that every single day, coming home, writing an article. It was 350 pages in 2 years before I had traction. The biggest disillusion that people have is it's going to be quick. It's going to be easy. It's going to be effortless. It's going to be a shitload of work for a long time before you start seeing the results. You need to just accept that. If you can accept that, there's ways you can accelerate. I can show you ways like I'm doing now. I'm going to be doing actually an SEO mastermind and an SEO master class, because when I talk about these people, they're going to get overwhelmed. I realized the overwhelming. I said, I would just say, look, you got 15 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day. Let me show you my GMB strategy with 15 minutes a day. Do that consistently for the next year. Watch what happens just on GMB, 15 minutes a day. Just that alone. No, but I need other stuff. I want to do everything. You're overwhelmed. You won't do any of it. That's the biggest thing. I want to do everything. Therefore, I do nothing.
Yep.
I don't know, bro. What you having for lunch?
I don't know. I'm gonna look on DoorDash and see what.
Because I'm gonna go make me my standard keto bread with egg, slice of cheese, and a slice of ham. That's what I eat every day for breakfast. I haven't had breakfast yet because I started talking to you, and before I know it, it's 3 hours in, and I haven't shut up.
Yeah, I haven't eaten anything either, and I'm like hungry. So
all right, brother.
It's
So
either gonna be like a sandwich or like a burger or something, maybe.
Hope this helps you. Hope this helps a bunch of people out there because,
well, it's helped me. I'm appreciative. Like I said, I've been following you for years now, and I know you've been talking a lot about the burnout. And even though I don't think I'm burnt out, I know I might be getting close to it, and I don't want I'm trying to do preventative stuff to try
and just figure out if you can take a weekend with the wifey.
Yeah.
Even a change of scenery, just going to a hotel. Now it's getting cold for you guys, so you can't go to the pool, but just finding a place nearby that you can go for 3 days, take 3 days off. If you can't take 3, take 2.
Yeah.
Take something where you just leave the phone at home. You don't talk about work. You eat, sleep, You're married, have a lot of sex. I mean, heck, that's what it's for. And just, unwind and do the things you normally don't get to do if you're home busy all the time. Walk away from it, because what'll happen is you'll find out your mind will come back with things that you've been trying to figure out that, dang, I can't figure it out. You're so close to the forest, you can't see the trees.
Yeah.
Do it like every 3 months, at least every quarter. Put it in your budget. I don't know, write it off, do whatever,
Yeah.
pay for it yourself. It doesn't matter. Go on dates, leave the phone at home, leave your damn watch at home. Let everybody know, hey, for 2 hours on a Tuesday, Thursday, whatever day it is, I'm not going to answer you. Don't bother me. I'm with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
Make her a priority. Um, do those little things. Figure out if you can talk her into, go make the money and so she doesn't have to clean her house. Do things like that where it's making life easier and you have more communication, and walk away from it. Learn to walk away, just because the hardest thing is for us to mentally walk away. I think if you do that, you'll be able to do a whole lot. Some people go fishing, some people go hunting. I don't have a hobby. My hobby is cigars.
Yeah.
So I buy the longest cigar I can buy that'll get me 4 hours, 5 hours. I can sit out there with 5 hours. We do it on a Friday night. That's our thing. I do charcuterie for us. Every Friday night we do charcuterie. We go out there, we either take a rum, we take wine, we spend 4 to 5 hours on our own. And, that's it. And my phone is usually not with me. I have the music going, and, it's kind of like we're out there sometimes till 1 a.m, man, just totally unwinding from the whole week, trying to prep ourselves to enjoy our weekend, because then we go into it exhausted and stressed. Mm-hmm. So it's just figuring out your strategy. You got to figure something out to relieve the anxiety. Some people, it's the gym. I hate the gym.
I hate the gym too.
Yeah, but I got to do it because, I physically got to keep moving and I got to get the exercise. I have issues with my muscles. I got issues with ligaments. I have issues with a lot of things. I got issues with my stomach. I got to watch what I eat. So, when you get older, what I tell people is, like I told my techs, I said, wear the knee pads. Yeah. When you're 50, you're going to thank me. I know you're 25. I know you're 30. You think you're indestructible. Trust me, I'm not doing it because I'm trying to cover my ass so I don't get sued if you break your knee. I'm trying to make sure that when you're 50 years old, you don't have bad knees. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to make sure with a lot of people that when they're mature in their business, they're not suffering a nervous breakdown. They're not suffering a lot of the losses that I've suffered as a result of that. And I think that's the biggest contribution I can make right now to the industry, is to help people overcome a lot of the BS, a lot of the things that are going on in their personal life and stuff. I got people calling me, bro. She filed for divorce. What am I going to do? I said, get a lawyer. No, but we're going to work it out. I said, get a lawyer. No, but we're going to work it out. And mark my words, get a lawyer. A month in, she got a lawyer. Yeah. And he was SOL. So don't battle it. What can I tell you is experience matters. Yeah. How do you succeed? You make good decisions. How do you make good decisions? You get experience. How do you get experience? By making bad decisions. I mean, what can I tell you is, all I can do is, I'm more of a trailblazer and a go than I am a guru or anything else. I just can tell you, hey, 53 years makes a difference. Spend time with your parents. One day they're not going to be there. Yeah. Make time for your parents. Make time to if the relationship is bad, fix it. Because one day you're going to regret it, that it wasn't handled. Those are the things that we don't talk about in business, that are a lot of the real issues. Guard your heart, because out of it flows the issues of life. If our heart gets messed up, then everything else gets messed up. And I think it's more important to have a healthy heart than, because you can have a healthy business and everything else is messed up. Why? Let's just do that. And I think that's probably where I'm at. I think, what happens to me is important, because it's happening to other people, and how do we get through it? How do we get through it together more than am I going to make it on the PCT 100?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, your kids are not going to care.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to care when you're in your deathbed. Trust me, it's not going to matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be the relationships, going to be the people. It's going to be, the life that we led, the example we gave. That's what people are going to remember. That's what our kids are going to remember. My kid doesn't, I don't remember a darn toy I had. My kid's not going to remember all the toys I bought him.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to remember that I was consistent, that I was there, that I was loving, that I was kind. I tell him every single day in the car, I love you. And I said, Papa, I love you? And he says, yes. He's 9. He says, yes. And he says, how do you know? Because you tell me every day. That's how you tell me every day. So, how does my daughter know I love her? Because, I have time with her. I have the dates. I have the affection. I love you. You're the biggest treasure of my life. I know that. You know why it's important? Because one day I want her to find a man that tells her I love you every single day. She's not going to if she's going to look at the material things because all I gave her was money and I gave her luxury things and I gave her all this, that's what she's going to look for in a husband, and they're both going to be sadly disappointed. I'm not raising good kids. I'm raising good adults. And so it all starts there. And if things are messed up, being divorced, it makes it doubly hard. So I have to work doubly hard at that. And it's hard for me as a man. It's harder. It's easier for me to work at the business. It's harder for me to work at that. But I realize that's going to produce a dividend and a return that I'm never going to get over here, because this is fleeting. My business, half of the time, I don't even want to do it anymore. To be honest, I'm trying to build this thing as fast as I can so I can sell it, because there's no real pleasure in just doing the business. The pleasure is, my biggest pleasure was when the biggest reward I ever had, rewarding job that paid me the least, was when I was a youth pastor. Having these 4-hour conversations on a bus, picking up a kid after school so that he could go to youth group at night, was more rewarding than anything I've ever done in business. The things that I love the most make no money.
Yeah.
And so the money has never been my money. Why do I spend 3 hours with you? Because for the rest of the week, this is more rewarding than anything else I will do the rest of the week in my business, other than be with my girl and be with my kids.
Yeah.
Nothing else is good. The business will never satisfy me. I already know that.
Yeah.
It never has. It's almost like a necessary evil to do the things that I want to do.
And that's why I see my business as, it's just something to make money so I can do other things that I enjoy.
Yep. And so what we got to figure out is, so don't take it so seriously. Don't make it so hard on yourself. I'm learning to laugh a lot more than I have in the last couple of years. It's been a dark 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And that darkness does take a toll on you. And I'm learning to try to laugh again at a lot of the things in life. Thank God I got a good woman that says, you're cranky. And my daughter, you're cranky. They're like my barometers, you're Mr. Cranky Pants. That's what my daughter calls me, Mr. Cranky Pants. Because, but I've been a lot better in the last couple of months. I've been going to therapy and, dealing with it and being cognizant of when this and, having to lose technicians and having to lose this and nothing works out, waiting 3 months for a part for the van, the other van is falling apart. I need to get rid of it and sell it. I can't fix this one. It's like, what the hell? I just wake up in the morning, be thankful, go to sleep, be thankful, have these conversations. People are like, man, why do you spend 3 hours on the phone talking to all these people? I don't know. It's more rewarding than anything else.
It's therapy for me.
It's more therapy for me to do a podcast because we get to deal with it. I mean, at least I try to be honest and transparent about the reality of what's going on versus trying to pretend I'm this with a made up stage behind me and, everything is just, sunshine, rainbows and unicorns. So that's it, brother. I think I'm
All
gonna
right.
go grab lunch, man. Thank you so much though for being on and
I appreciate you having me on. We should
doing
definitely do
this,
it
and then
sometime.
just keep sending me the videos, bro. You're gonna be the next Steven Van Tassel in Indiana.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, bro. Just keep sending me. We'll put them out there. I mean, if anybody wants to be part of this team and put on a video, we'd be more than glad to put it out. If they're doing something, keep your journey, bro. It's fun. You got a good mentor.
Yeah.
Chopin has actually done it. He was doing the whole mentoring thing and doing that. So my girl is probably at the doctor now, so I'm gonna have to call this quick because she was going to the doctor to get a test today. But she's on the phone now, so I'm gonna go ahead and end it, bro. Thank you so much
All
for
right.
being on. Let me
Yeah.
answer this,
Okay.
and I'll talk to you in a bit. Take
Yep.
care, brother.
Bye.
Bye.